Chapter 1938. Chong, what are you doing? After Lu Ziyue was dragged away by Brother Chong, the bearded Brother Hong, who had disappeared earlier, returned. He yelled and walked in through Brother Chong's group of underlings. Don't meddle in other people's business. Brother Chong's expression was very bad. He had just been scratched and bitten by Lu Ziyue and was now angry. If you want to do this, woman, wait until I do it first. Shi Shang and Shi Lu were blocked in the middle of the bunk by a few people. Shi Shang tried to rush out several times but failed. He was even thrown to the ground by one of the people and hit his forehead. His head was dizzy. Just as she was about to pick up the knife Shi Mu had given her, Hong Gu appeared. Shi Shang stopped what she was doing and peered through the people blocking her. Let her go. Brother Hong's tone was relaxed. If you don't like it, let's fight. She belongs to whoever wins. Ha! Brother Chong sneered. This woman looks really beautiful. Even you want to fight? He pushed Lu Ziyue away. Let's fight. Let's go. Brother Hong asked someone to call for help. He and Brother Chong left the dormitory and went to the open space outside. A group of people quickly gathered outside. As long as these people didn't fight in the dormitory and make a mess, the supervisors wouldn't care. In the dormitory, the woman helped Lu Ziyue up. You're lucky. If Brother Hong wins, follow him well. He won't treat you badly and Brother Chong won't dare to bully you. But if Brother Chong wins, you're on your own. Lu Ziyue knelt by Shi Mu's bed and held his hand tightly. Your man? The woman asked. She didn't wait for Lu Ziyue's answer and said, Your man is quite powerful, but he can't protect all of you alone. The woman sighed. Since you're here, you have to be prepared. This isn't the outside world, especially us. The woman's expression darkened. Women who came to this planet basically had no way to survive. Lu Ziyue's shoulders trembled. Shi Shang supported her from behind. Lu Ziyue looked back at him and tried to squeeze out a smile, but it was uglier than crying. The fight between Brother Hong and Brother Chong ended quickly. Brother Chong came in cursing. He glanced at them and dragged the woman from before to his seat. Honga came in later, and the little brother beside him scolded a few times. The crowd dispersed and returned to their respective bunks. Brother Hong changed beds with the woman in the clinic. He sat by the bed and glanced at the unconscious Shi Mu. He said to Lu Ziyue, This place is not like the outside. Don't be alone. Lu Ziyue looked up at Brother Hong. You. Hung didn't say much. He lay on the bed and rested his head on the back of his head. How did you guys end up like this? Lu Ziyue subconsciously squeezed Shi Mu's hand. Why would this person help them for no reason? Hearing nothing for a long time, Honga sneered. Go get some food. The lackeys sized up Lu Ziyue and left the dormitory. Hung did not say anything else. His men quickly came back with the food. Hung gave them a look and they placed the food beside Shi Mu's bed. Shi Shang's gaze fell on those items. These things were the worst quality nutrients. It was much worse than the ones given to them by Fei Ying's bodyguards. How bad was it? It was so bad that it was difficult to swallow. Brother Hong did not care if Lu Ziyue and the rest ate it or not. After dismissing his lackeys, he lay on the bed and closed his eyes. It was unknown if he was asleep or just taking a nap. Lu Ziyue did not dare to touch these things. She did not know this person's purpose. It was not a good thing for someone to suddenly help you here. However, with Brother Hong here, no one dared to cause trouble. However, at night, someone dressed in the supervision team came in and walked straight to Lu Ziyue. He pointed at her. Come with us. Lu Ziyue's heart was bleeding. Her nails dug into her flesh. This voice woke Brother Hong up. He opened his eyes and glanced sharply at the person who spoke. Brother Hong. That person seemed to have just noticed Brother Hong. The arrogance on his face immediately turned into flattery. Why are you sleeping here? The air here is so bad. Brother Hong ignored him and went straight to the point. I'll take care of this person. Don't have any ideas about her. This That person was put in a difficult position, but he did not dare to get angry. But this is the person our leader wants. Brother Hong, do you want to suffer a little? We have many women here. Don't make things difficult for our leader, lest you have a hard time in the future. Brother Hong crossed his legs, as if he did not hear the threat in that person's words. He can go to a nearby residential planet every month. We might not be able to get out of here for the rest of our lives. He still wants to snatch her from me. Isn't that unkind? Brother Hong, that person said a lot, but he was blocked by Brother Hong with a few words. In the end, that person left with his people unwillingly. Later, the manager came personally. Brother Hong went out to talk to him. When he came back, the manager was gone. No one took Lu Ziwei away. It should have been resolved. Thank you. Although she did not know this person's purpose, Lu Ziwei still thanked him. If it were not for him today, she would go to sleep. Brother Hong waved his hand, seemingly a little impatient. He took one last look at Shi Mu and lay on the bed with a sullen face. In such an unfamiliar environment, Shi Mu was still like this. How could Lu Ziwei dare to sleep? She stayed by Shi Mu's side for the whole night. Shi Shang carried Shi Lu to the shop next door. Fortunately, it was against the wall, so it was not very dangerous. Shi Lu slept soundly, but Shi Shang did not. Her hand was still touching the knife. She did not know what would happen next, but she knew that she could not rely on her father for everything. She had to be strong to protect her sister and her parents. With Brother Hong's protection, no one dared to cause trouble for them. The next day, Shi Shang and Lu Ziwei had to go to work. Shi Lu was too young, so Brother Hong asked a woman to take care of her and Shi Mu. Shi Shang and Lu Ziwei were very worried, but they had no choice now. They mined a kind of ore here. Like all mines, in addition to the supervisors, the boss who worked here could also assign tasks. Brother Hong assigned relatively easy tasks to Shi Shang and Lu Ziwei. Of course, this was only relative to the others. For Shi Shang, it was still too heavy. After a while, she could not take it anymore. Her forehead was full of sweat, her head was dizzy, and her limbs were weak. Little girl, it's very difficult for you to survive here like this. A large hand suddenly held her cot and pushed it forward easily. The man's tall figure blocked the glaring sun. Shi Shang looked up at him. The man's head was slightly lowered, and the beard on his face almost covered half of his face. Walk behind me. Brother Hong was still carrying something on his shoulder. He pointed his chin impatiently. Shi Shang was exhausted, but she did not let go. She ignored Brother Hong and pushed the cart forward. Brother Hong said in that strange cold voice again, then strode past her. #today, I'm begging for votes for borage flavor #monthly votes, monthly votes, monthly votes. I hope that the book reviews will exceed 100,000 when it officially ends. Get excited, friends. Chapter 1939. Brother Hong did not help her after that, but she found that the ore in her car was reduced by nearly half, so it was much easier to push it. Once, she was discovered by a supervisor. Just as he was about to scold her, Brother Hong appeared out of nowhere and walked past the supervisor. The supervisor looked at Shi Shang for a while and walked away as if he did not see her. Shi Shang observed Brother Hong several times. Sometimes, he would work, and sometimes he would sit at the side and rest. No one said anything about him, but he finished his work every day. After a day of work, Shi Shang felt like she had walked around hell. When she returned to the dormitory, her mind was full of tiredness, thirst, and hunger. Big sister. Shirley's spirit was a little better, and he called her softly. Yes. Shi Shang was so tired that she did not want to talk. She did not even want to open her eyes. Shirley didn't speak again. Shi Shang felt something being placed in front of her mouth. She opened her mouth and the liquid slid down her throat. It tasted awful, but it moistened her parched throat a little. Shi Shang did not know how long she slept. When she woke up again, it was already the next day. Lu Ziyue was sitting beside her with Shi Shang in her arms. Shi Mu's bed was empty. "Where's Dad?" Shi Shang sat up suddenly, her limbs swollen and painful. "Baby." Lu Ziyue put Shi down and helped her sit down. "Dad and that person went out to talk." Shi Shang would never know what Shi Mu and Brother Hong said that day, but Brother Hong took care of their family after that. Shi Mu told Shi Shang that Brother Hong could be trusted, but not completely. Shi Shang didn't quite understand, so she agreed. When Hong Ji offered her help, she would accept it appropriately, but she definitely wouldn't accept anything he gave her. Brother Hong seemed to think that Shi Shang was strange and often teased her. Brother Chong and Brother Hong were still at loggerheads, but Brother Chong was obviously afraid of Brother Hong and did not make a move on Lu Ziyue. Later, Shi Shang heard that Brother Hong used to be a ruthless person. Even if he could not get out of here now, he still had people outside. Those people would send supplies here from time to time. In this place where supplies were scarce, whoever had supplies had the right to speak. Therefore, Brother Hong's status was higher than these people. As long as he didn't want to leave, the management would turn a blind eye. Shi Shang was puzzled. Since he had so many people, why didn't he run away? One afternoon, during a break, Shi Shang asked this question. Hung smoked a kind of cigarette that he had never seen before and sneered habitually. "So what if I go out? I'm living a good life here. Why should I go out?" He turned his head to look at the little girl beside him, who was already tanned. "You want to go out?" Shi Shang's gaze was firm. "Yes." Hung put out the cigarette but got up and looked into the distance. He said in a tired tone that only Shi Shang understood after many years, "The outside world is crueler than here." The outside world was crueler than here. This sentence was not wrong. The cruelty here was on the surface. Whoever was weak would be bullied. But in the outside world, who would know the true face of another person? If you want to go out, you have to work hard. Hung left after saying that. Shi Shang had lived here for a year. In this year, she could already easily push a cart full of oars. Her martial arts had improved greatly under Shi Mu and Hong Ji's guidance. At the very least, she was able to escape from being surrounded by two adults. "Hey, I heard that we have a distinguished guest today?" "Yes, I also heard that they brought a lot of supplies. Those vampires are so happy." "No matter how many supplies there are, it has nothing to do with us. It's good enough that we have something to eat." Shi Shang pushed the cart full of oars past them. Shi Lu ran over from afar. "Sister, why are you here?" Shi Shang put down the cart and squatted down to support Shi Lu. "Didn't I tell you to stay in the dormitory?" "Sister, I brought you food." Shi Lu took out a nutrient solution from his arms. Although Shi Li's skin was a little dark, compared to Shi Shang, it was like heaven and earth. The three of them worked hard enough to support Shi Lu, so they did not agree to let Shi Lu out. Originally, Shi Mu did not want to let Shi Shang out, but Shi Shang firmly said that she had to become stronger, so Shi Mu agreed. "I'm not hungry. You can keep it." Shi Shang looked around. When he saw that no one was looking, he stuffed the nutrient solution into her clothes. "Don't take anything out in the future, okay?" Shi Lu looked around like a thief and nodded. "Okay." Shi Shang was worried about her going back alone, so he let her follow behind him. Shi Lu was very sensible and helped Shi Shang push the cart. Although her strength was negligible, Shi Shang did not stop her. Shi Lu should also train. What would she do if they were not by her side one day? Blindly protecting her was not good for her. When Shi Shang returned to the dormitory, Shi Mu and Brother Hong were both there. Lu Ziyue was packing her things. She kept her head down and her expression could not be seen clearly. "Mom." Shi Lu ran over and hugged her thigh. "Where are you going?" Lu Ziyue's body stiffened. She reached out and pushed Shi Lu away. "I'm leaving. I've had enough of this place." "Mom." Shi Lu looked at her in confusion. Lu Ziyue lowered her head and picked up her things. She looked up with a cold expression on her face that Shi Shang had never seen before. "Brother Mu, I'm sorry. I'll leave Darling and Hua Hua to you. Shi Mu looked at her with a very complicated expression. He reached out and tried to grab Lu Ziyue. Zhe. Lu Ziyue avoided his hand. Brother Mu, let's part ways here. She lowered her head and walked out quickly. Shi Shang stood outside and grabbed Lu Ziyue's hand. Mum. Darling. Lu Ziyue whispered. Then, she broke free from her mother's hand and ran out of the dormitory. Shi Shang's hand seemed to still have her warmth. Where is Mom going? Dad, why didn't you stop Mom? Shirla cried and wanted to chase after her, but Shi Mu hugged him. Dad, don't let Mom go. Let her go. Shi Mu's eyes were red. Let her go. No, I want Mom. I want Mom. Shirla struggled, tears streaming down his little face. Hua Hua, be good. Mom won't suffer any more in the future. You also want Mom to live a good life, right? Shi Mu patted Shirley's back, suppressing the pain and struggle in his voice. No, I want Mom. I want Mom. Mom. Brother Hong patted Shi Mu's shoulder and sighed silently. Shi Shang was stunned for a long time, as if he couldn't believe that his mother had left just like that. His ears were filled with Shirley's cries, which made his head hurt. Lu Ziyue left just like that. Shi Shang heard that she left with a boss who came here. When she left, she changed into beautiful clothes and behaved elegantly. Even her dark skin couldn't hide her elegance. Shi Shang hugged Shi Lu, who was crying non-stop, and did not sleep for the whole night. Just like the night when they first arrived here. But at that time, Lu Ziyue hugged her and comforted her. Her embrace was warm and soft. Now, there was only coldness on the ground. Chapter 1940. Lu Ziyue had left and their lives had to go on, but tragedies always happened at the most difficult time. A month later, the underground mine collapsed and Shi Mu and Brother Hong were buried inside. No one knew if they were dead or alive. Shi Shang ran to the scene like a madwoman. The place was surrounded by people. Other than Hong Ji's men, the rest looked on numbly. This kind of thing happened all the time. Who knows how many people were buried under the ground? Because the collapse covered a large area and they did not know the exact location of Brother Hong and Shi Mu at that time, it was impossible to save them. Perhaps it was because of the supplies sent by Brother Hong's men that the management tried to rescue them. During the rescue, there was a second collapse. Those people were afraid that the collapse would continue and the place would be completely destroyed, so they did not try to rescue them. Shi Shang crawled on top of the waste rock and used her hands to pull at the rocks. There were no tears or confusion in her eyes, only a sense of determination and determination. Little girl, it's useless. Brother Hong's men stood beside her dispiritedly. This mine is very deep and there were 2 collapses. You can't save them like this. Shi Shang did not listen at all. No matter who came, she stubbornly dug at the waste stone with her hands. This continued until she fainted. It was already 3 days later when Shi Shang woke up. She lay on the bed and stared blankly at the top of her head, as if she had accepted her fate. Shirley's eyes were red and swollen. She tried to feed her, but in the end, she did not manage to feed her at all. Sister, sister, don't scare me. Shirley's hot tears fell on Shi Shang's arm. She moved her fingers and slowly touched Shirley's head. Sister. Shirley's vision was blurred. She wiped her tears casually. Sister, eat something. Shi Shang opened her mouth and the disgusting nutrient liquid flowed into her esophagus. Shirley's small hands kept wiping her cheeks. Shi Shang woke up and sat up on the bed with difficulty. She held Shirley's hand and said in a hoarse voice, I'm fine. Shi Lu was scared out of her wits. Her father had disappeared and her sister had become like this. She did not know what to do. When she saw Shi Shang forcing herself to stay alert, she did not hesitate to show the weakness in her heart. She hugged Shi Shang and cried, Sister, is father never coming back? Shi Shang's fingers were trembling. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed by something. It was so painful that she couldn't breathe. After a while, she hugged Shi Shang and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm still here." And big sister. While Shi Shang was unconscious, the tunnel collapsed twice more. This time, all of Shi Shang's hopes were cut off. Even if Shi Mu was still alive previously, after 2 consecutive collapses, any normal person would know that he could not still be alive. Shi Shang was depressed for a long time. Hong Guo was buried in the mine, and the structure of the mine had changed. Hong Ji's underlings seemed to have disappeared overnight, and Chong Ji, who had always been suppressed, became the leader. Shi Shang and Shi Lu were forced to work. Even if their father wasn't here, they still had to live on. Shi Shang's wish had never changed. She wanted to leave this hell and take her sister with her. Shi Lu had been here for a year, but she had never done such a thing. But the children in the mine who were younger than her had done better than her. At that time, Shi Lu realized how well she was protected. "Sister." Shi Li's shoulders suddenly loosened. She looked up and saw Shi Shang putting things on her cart. Shi Shang forced a smile. "Follow me." Shi Li's eyes reddened as she followed behind Shi Shang. She looked at the thin figure in front of her. It was different from her father's tall figure, but it gave her the same feeling. It was so reassuring. Shi Lu clenched her hands. She could not let her sister suffer so much. Shi Lu worked hard to become a qualified worker in the mine. She refused Shi Shang's help. Shi Shang felt sorry for her at first, but later, he let her be. He just left her more food so that she would not starve. On a certain night, the sunset on the horizon was like blood splashed on the ground. It was dazzling red. Shi Shang panicked for no reason. "Sister." Just now, Shi Lu said that he was going to pee, but she was stopped by someone. Plus, Shi Lu was already fine by himself, so she did not care. She quickly looked around and did not see Shi Lu. He was not back yet. It had been so long. Shi Shang immediately went to the toilet to look for Shi Lu, but there was no sign of him. She asked the people nearby, but they shook their heads numbly and said that they did not see him. Shi Shang's heart was in her mouth. She searched the entire mine but did not see Shi Lu. She rushed to the dormitory with a pale face. At this time, there were still 2 hours before the break. Shi Shang returned to the dormitory area. It was very quiet here, and there were only a few resting women sitting outside chatting occasionally. There was no one in the dormitory. The feeling of something very important being missing and not being able to find it made Shi Shang almost unable to think. She instinctively searched the mine. "Little girl." Someone patted Shi Shang. She turned around and saw that it was the woman who had given her the medicine when they first arrived a year ago. She pointed in a direction and said, "Your sister was taken there." She patted her shoulder regretfully and said, "You'd better not go there now, or you." Shi Shang did not listen to the woman's words and ran in the direction the woman pointed. The soft crying behind the rock seemed to have stimulated Shi Shang. She rushed over the rock and saw that her sister was pressed to the ground by 2 men. Her clothes were torn open, and her thin body was covered with twisted red marks. Fortunately, the 2 men's clothes were intact. Shi Shang did not know how to control herself at that time. She calmly pulled out the knife that never left her side and approached the 2 men from behind. That was the first time she had killed someone. The knife pierced the man's neck and blood splattered. Warm and sticky liquid dripped down her cheek. There was no pleasure or fear. Shi Shang looked at the 2 men on the ground. She did not throw away her weapon like other people who had killed someone for the first time. She calmly wiped the knife clean and put it back on her waist. Then, she took off her blood-stained coat and wiped the blood off her face. Shi Lu looked at her in a daze. Her eyes were still filled with horror and she even forgot to cry. She did not know if she was frightened by Shi Shang or the 2 men. Shi Shang stood in front of her and suddenly shrank back. Was she afraid of her? "Sister." Shi Lu called softly. Shi Shang's heart collapsed. She went forward and wrapped Shi Li's clothes up. "Don't be afraid." Shi Shang carried Shi Lu and walked out. The woman followed them and they bumped into each other. Her face changed slightly when she saw the 2 dead men behind them. "Let's go." The woman waved at Shi Shang. Shi Shang glanced at her and left the place with Shi Lu in her arms. The woman followed behind Shi Shang. After taking 2 steps, she ran back and picked up the jacket Shi Shang had thrown away. She looked around to make sure she didn't leave any clues behind before wrapping the jacket up and quickly leaving the place. #hashtag today, I want a 5-clawed golden dragon ticket #monthly ticket. Chapter 1941. Shi Shang carried Shi Lu back to the dormitory. The woman wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she only said, "I'll go talk to the foreman. Hurry up and clean up. Don't let anyone find out." Although it was not illegal to kill people here, most of the people here were in groups. If someone killed someone, someone might take the opportunity to cause trouble. Shi Shang and Shi Lu were 2 girls. Brother Hong used to protect them. Now that Brother Hong was gone, who would be afraid of them? After the woman left, Shi Shang carefully looked at Shi Li's body. The familiar marks reminded Shi Shang of the incident more than a year ago. Shi Shang's mind exploded with a bang and she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. When they first arrived here, Shi Lu often had nightmares. Every time, it was Lu Ziyue who comforted her. Shi Shang only thought that it was caused by the environment here. During that time, she always saw Lu Ziyue holding Shi Lu with a gloomy face. However, whenever they met, Lu Ziyue would show the gentleness a mother should have. "Mom. Sister." Shi Lu grabbed Shi Shang's lapel so tightly that her fingertips turned white. "When will Mom come back?" Shi Shang tried hard to recall the day Lu Ziyue left. However, she did not hear any useful information except for the words, "distinguished guests," that she occasionally heard. However, not long after those people left, Shi Mu was in trouble, together with Brother Hong who protected them. She knew that she did not blame Lu Ziyue when she left. She was just a normal child. Even in difficult times, she wanted to be accompanied by her parents. However, at this time, she suddenly realized that Lu Ziyue left, with the determination to die. She was going to avenge Shi Lu. Lu Ziyue loved her and Shi Lu. She would not give up on them just because of hardships. Shi Shang hated herself for waking up a little late. She was more eager to leave this place and find Lu Ziyue. She had lost her father. She did not want to lose her mother. The next period of time was the most difficult time for them. In the face of those men with bad intentions, Shi Shang had to protect Shi Lu. Sometimes she was beaten black and blue, but she would never let go of the knife in her hand. Half a year later, under her perfect plan, she escaped from that place with Shi Lu. But as soon as she left, before she could rejoice, she was brought back to the Shi family. Yes, it was that Shi family. The moment she was caught, she realized that her perfect plan was nothing more than a ploy by these people. Even the woman who helped them was nothing more than a spy they planted. She was the one they wanted. She and Shi Lu were separated. The first time she met the Shi family head, she was locked up in the Shi family's prison cell. There was nothing there. She was locked inside. It was so quiet that she was about to go crazy, but she gritted her teeth and endured it. She couldn't break down. Ji Lu still needed her. The scars on her hands were all caused by her trying to stay awake. Shi Sheng. Shi Xian looked very young, but he was almost 300 years old. In terms of seniority, Shi Shang had to call him grandfather. He stood outside the cell and looked at Shi Shang like a ruler looking down on an ant. Shi Shang pounced on him, his eyes bloodshot. "Where is my sister?" "Don't worry, she's safe." Shi Xian waved his hand and a holographic screen appeared. Shi Lu was lying on a bed with many people in white coats around her. They were doing something. "What are you doing to her?" Shi Sheng roared. "Don't touch her. Come at me. Don't touch her." After being locked up in a quiet room for a long time, Shi Shang was about to break down when he saw such a scene. "Don't cry, don't cry." Shi Xian turned off the screen and comforted him softly. "I'm just checking your sister's body. I won't hurt her. What do you want?" Shi Shang glared at Shi Xian with red eyes. "What do you want?" Don't be agitated, little girl. Shi Xian's voice was clear and bewitching. I just want to ask you for a small favor. Shi Xian's small favor was to ask Shi Shang to open a door. The method was very simple. He just needed to let his blood out. However, the result was not as expected. The door did not move at all. Shi Xian frowned and thought for a long time. He did not get angry and did not do anything to Shi Sheng. Instead, he returned Shi Lu to her and allowed her to live in the Shi family. Although it was called living, it was just a disguised imprisonment. The Shi family was too big. Shi Shang did not dare to fight against it rashly. Her and Shi Li's life in the Shi family was still miserable. The Shi family's geniuses and other people rejected and made things difficult for them. They would still starve if they lived here, and those people would take away their rations. This kind of life lasted for more than half a year. Shi and Shi Lu were also sent to the Shi family's assessment site during the triennial assessment. That year, Shi Shang was 12 years old and Shi Lu was 7 years old. The assessment site was a planet. It was built completely according to the Shi family's wishes and was full of danger. The other children had already been taught by the Shi family. Even if they did not pass the assessment, they had at least a 50% chance of survival. However, Shi Shang and Shi Lu were different. Although Shi Shang had secretly learned some things, there were still many things that she did not know. As soon as she entered the assessment site, she and Shi Lu encountered danger. It was a huge interstellar beast. Standing in front of it, she and Shi Lu were as small as ants. Shi Lu was completely scared out of his wits. Shi Shang dragged Shi Lu and ran. The interstellar beast chased after them, and its huge body crushed the surrounding vegetation. Just as Shi Shang was about to lure the interstellar beast away and let Shi Lu escape, a little girl in red suddenly appeared. She did something, and the interstellar beast roared and ran away. Did you fall behind? The little girl jumped in front of Shi Shang. She looked to be about the same age as her and spoke with a hint of playfulness. She's so young. She's not even 12 years old, right? How did she get in? Shi Shang protected Shi Lu behind her and was full of vigilance. The little girl thought for a moment and pointed at her. You're Shi Shang, right? Shi Shang frowned. She had never seen this person in the Shi family. The little girl in red stretched out her hand and smiled. My name is Shi Yu. You might not have seen me before. I used to live with my parents somewhere else. I only came back because of the assessment. Shi Yu, the eldest daughter of the Shi family. She knew her. It was rumored that she was the most talented person in the Shi family. Her father was Shi Xian's eldest son, but for some reason, her family did not live in the main house. Shi Yu, the eldest daughter, could only be seen during the New Year or some important family activities. However, there were many rumors about her in the family. Shi Shang hesitated for a moment and reached out to shake her hand. However, he quickly withdrew his hand and protected Shi Lu behind him. Shi Yu did not care and said to herself, the interstellar beasts here only look big, but they're not difficult to deal with. For some reason, Shi Yu followed Shi Shang along the way. With her around, they didn't encounter much danger along the way. For a young lady like her, the elders had already told her what was in the assessment site. Even if it was different every year, the experience of the elders was enough for them to deal with it. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little fairy, I think I saw the end of the world. Cherub, black face with a question mark, little fairy, aren't you going to vote? If you don't vote, it's the end of the world for me. Cherub. Damn. Chapter 1942. After walking with them for a while, Shi Yu met another group of people who called her away. Those people seemed to be very impatient and hurriedly urged Shi Yu to leave. Shi Yu left a weapon for Shi Shang and then left with those people. Not long after Shi Yu left, Shi Shang and Shi Lu encountered trouble. Those people deliberately called Shi Yu away. There were dangers and traps everywhere in the exam grounds. Even if Shi Shang had an outstanding mind, she didn't have outstanding martial prowess. She ended up in a very sorry state, yet she still had to protect Shi Lu. By the end of the day, she was on the verge of collapse. 5 days later, Shi Shang and Shi Lu were trapped in a cave. At the same time, several people who were participating in the assessment were also trapped. It was a strange red rain outside. The rainwater was not dangerous when it touched the trees, but once people went out, they would immediately turn into a pool of blood. The cave was not big. At this time, they were trapped here. Shi Shang and Shi Lu were squeezed to the innermost part, and those people kept slandering them. Sister. Shi Lu clutched Shi Shang tightly. Shi Shang hugged her shoulder and comforted her softly. Don't be afraid. These people only attacked with words and did not make a move. However, the rain outside did not stop, and they had almost used up all the food on them. It was raining so heavily outside that no one dared to go out. When these people found that there was not enough food, they did not have the intention to save and continued to eat and drink. At that time, they thought that the rain outside would not last long. However, they were wrong. The rain did not stop for 2 months. Usually, the assessment would only last for 3 months, but this time, it rained for 2 months. This was very strange, but no one knew why. They had used up all the food on them. They tried to snatch Shi Shang and Shi Lu, but in the end, they were all scared away by Shi Shang. Her desperate look made these people a little scared. Shi Shang did not dare to relax for a moment. The people there had been quiet for a few days, but they were really too hungry. They gathered together to discuss, and from time to time, they would look at Shi Shang and Shi Shang strangely. The strange light in their eyes reminded Shi Shang of those people he met when they were forced to land on that barren planet. Shi Shang carried Shi Lu and quietly moved towards the entrance of the cave. These people were crazy. They were starving. It was still raining heavily outside, so Shi Shang didn't dare to rush out. She had just seen a person turn into a puddle of blood right in front of her eyes. Sister. Perhaps Shi Lu realized that the atmosphere was not right, and his little face gradually turned pale. Shi Shang comforted her silently. The warmth in his eyes faded little by little and was replaced by coldness. Sure enough, those people surrounded Shi Shang with crazed expressions on their faces. Shi Shang held the knife tightly and waited for the first person to approach her. Then she swung the knife and stabbed the person's chest. However, the person was wearing a defensive suit, so the knife didn't pierce through. The Shi Shang immediately changed direction and stabbed at his neck. The man was so hungry that he had no strength. He wanted to dodge, but for some reason, he bumped into the knife in Shi Shang's hand instead. The Shi Shang stabbed his neck, causing blood to gush out. Shi Shang pushed him to the people behind him. Those people were knocked back a few steps, and then all of them rushed over like crazy. In the quiet forest, an older girl was running quickly with a child on her back. They were covered in a layer of green leaves. Red raindrops dripped from the vegetation around them and fell onto the leaves, rolling all the way to the ground. Shi Shang ran forward, panting. There were still several people chasing after her, so she couldn't stop. She killed those people in the cave. The rain became lighter after a few days, but it didn't seem to stop. If this continued, they wouldn't have enough food and would eventually die in the cave. She had to leave the cave with Shi Lu. However, she found that the animals that could be seen everywhere before had disappeared in the rain. It was as if all life on this planet had disappeared except for the plants, leaving only the humans who were struggling at death's door. 2 days later, she met some people. These people were obviously chasing after people who were alone. If everything here was inedible, then the only thing that could be eaten was, I see them. Catch up to them. The voices behind her were getting closer and closer. Shi Shang's heart tightened. She quickly glanced at the fork in front of her and chose the left. The people behind her had weapons. Originally, high-tech weapons were not allowed to enter this place, but some people had backing, so no one would say anything if they brought weapons in. The weapon that Shi Yu gave her was a small particle gun. Because it was too small, it was basically a single-use weapon that could only be used in a critical situation. This was probably prepared for her by the people behind Shi Yu to save her life. The Shi family's assessment was cruel. Anyone could die here. Ah! Shi Shang suddenly slipped and the ground caved in. Soil came crashing down, and the light in front of her suddenly dimmed. Then, there was intense pain and endless darkness. Shishang didn't know how long she had been unconscious. She felt like a century had passed. When she opened her eyes, she found that there was still darkness in front of her. Sister? Sister? Shirlu was beside her. His voice was very weak. Sister, you're awake? Shishang took out the last nutrient stick from her body and fumbled to put it in Shirley's hand. Eat something. A slightly cold body pressed against her. Sister, I'm not hungry. She knew that they only had this nutrient stick left. Shishang felt that her body was a little numb and not very painful. She didn't have the heart to care about her body for the time being. She touched the nutrient stick in Shirley's hand and opened it, forcing Shirlu to eat it. Ugh, sister. I don't. Cough, cough. Shirlu choked and Shishang stopped. She moved away from Shishang. Sister, eat it. Shishang covered the nutrient stick and put it back on her body. Come here. Shirlu went over and touched Shishang's arm with his small hand. He slowly held her hand. Sister. Shishang held Shirley's hand and felt a little relieved. Her mother's whereabouts were unknown, and her father. She only had her now. She had to protect her. Shishang calmed down for a moment and tried to move her body. Her waist hit a protrusion on the ground. She might have been injured, but she didn't feel anything at all at this time. Shishang's heart sank. How could she protect Shirlu in this state? How could she take her out? The Shi family. Shishang grabbed the gravel under her. The sharp part of the gravel pierced her palm. She would definitely take revenge for this. She would take revenge for everything that had happened to her. She had to live. Live. #hashtag today, I want to vote for borage flavor #vote. Vote, vote. Chapter 1943. Shishang did not know where she was now. She could not even see her fingers in front of her. The ground was damp and emitted an unpleasant smell. Soon, Shishang fell into a cycle of high fever, unconsciousness, and waking up. She gradually regained consciousness in her lower body. Every time she was woken up by the pain, she would fall into a coma again. She could vaguely hear cries in her ears, but they gradually became softer. In her blurry dreams, she would always see scenes of her childhood. Sometimes it was of Shirmu and Lu Ziyue, and sometimes it was of her and Shirlu. They intertwined and appeared, tormenting her nerves. Her throat was so dry that it was about to smoke. She wanted to open her eyes, but her eyelids were so heavy that it was as if they were glued together. Shirlu seemed to be calling her. She wanted to answer, but she could not make a sound. Shishang was a little anxious, but in the next second, she was surrounded by endless darkness. She was like a feather, floating in the darkness silently. Was she dead? Time seemed to have stopped here. She could think, but she could not move. She could only let herself float in the darkness, weightless. Rustle. After an unknown period of time, she suddenly heard a sound. It was like the sound of wind blowing through plants. It was very clear. It was right behind her. Behind her. Shishang used all her strength to turn around. A white light came from the darkness and swallowed her in an instant. The weightlessness disappeared, and she landed on a silver-white path. The path curved into the darkness in the distance. On both sides of the path, there were flowers with white petals and red stamens. They moved without wind, making a rustling sound as they rubbed against each other. It was like the sound of decadence. This was the sound she heard. Where was this place? Why was she here? Shishang stood on the silver-white path for a long time. She kept recalling in her mind. After a long time, her eyes lit up. This was the path to another world. When she was in the Shi family, she eavesdropped on the Shi family's elders' class. The elder said that the Shi family could travel through time and space to another world. It was another world, a world that was similar to theirs, yet completely different from theirs. However, in recent years, very few members of the Shi family had learned it. Only the head of the family and a few elders still knew how to do it. Sher Shang lifted her foot and wanted to walk into the darkness in the distance. As long as she walked through this path, she would be able to reach another world. She could not go. She did not know how to come back. There was also Shi Lu. She could not leave him behind. Sher Shang stood on this path for a long time. She could not return to that dark place, nor could she wake up. She was trapped here. Sher Shang didn't know how long he had been on that path, just like she didn't know how long she had been in that dark space. She didn't know when it started, but the snow-white flowers at her feet had been dyed red, spreading out like blood. The moment she discovered it, it frantically covered the distance. In the blink of an eye, the two sides of the silver-white path were filled with swaying blood-red flowers. Not only these flowers, but the entire world was being dyed red. She could smell the thick stench of blood. The color of blood surged towards her and enveloped her. She sank into the blood-red water. Fresh blood entered her mouth and nose, and the stench of blood became even thicker. Sher Shang tried to swim upstream, but something seemed to be entangling her feet and constantly pulling her into the water. Cold, pain, Sher Shang's limbs gradually became weak, and her body continued to sink into the cold blood. The darkness eroded from above, like a big hand picking her up from the blood. The darkness invaded her again, and she returned to that dark place. However, the stench of blood did not disappear. Her throat was sticky with the taste of rust, and the smell of blood was strong. She tried to open her mouth, and a warm liquid suddenly flowed into her esophagus and slid into her stomach. Only Shi Lu was beside her. She suddenly closed her mouth and held the hand in front of her. It was wet and slippery, and she knew it was blood. Sher Shang could not see the wound, so she could only pinch the place where the bleeding was the most. Her whole body trembled. "Sister!" A weak voice sounded from her chest. She reached out and touched Shirley's head. "What are you doing?" Dad said, "Let me." Shirley spoke with difficulty. "Protect sister." "Who needs your protection?" Sher Shang sat up abruptly. Her waist was stretched, and pain swept through her body. It was as if someone had cut her twice. However, she forced herself to sit up and held Shi Lu in her arms. "Don't be afraid. Sister will stop the bleeding. You'll be fine." She hurriedly pulled off her clothes, wanting to bandage Shirley's wrist to stop the bleeding. Shirley's slightly cold hand rested on the back of her hand. "Sister, you have to live. Don't die." Shirley's voice was so soft that Sher Shang almost could not hear it. "I don't want you to die." The hand on the back of her hand slowly slid down, and Sher Shang grabbed it. "I won't die. I won't die. You'll be fine too." It was silent in the darkness. Sher Shang held onto her already cold hand and sat there silently. If there was light at this time, one could see the tears rolling down her face. She did not cry when Lu Ziyue left. She could not cry because her sister was looking at her and needed her comfort. She did not cry when Shemu died. She could not cry because her sister was still alive and needed her protection. But now that Shi Lu had left her, what else could she not cry about? The suppressed cries in the darkness gradually grew louder. In that dark place, she seemed to have shed all the tears that she had not shed before and all the tears in the future. Shirley's life ended when Sher Shang was 12 years old, but he would live forever at 7 years old. Year 1591. Caesar, as the representative of the royal family, attended an event. Because he was too bored, he sneaked out of the event. When he passed by an alley, he saw a little girl covered in blood. That was Shi Sheng. She left the assessment site alive and was brought back to the Shi family. She escaped on the way. In order to escape from the Shi family who were chasing her, she was covered in wounds. There was almost no clean spot on her clothes and she was dripping with blood. Shi Shang rushed out of the alley and bumped into Caesar. The two of them looked at each other. When Shi Shang saw him, he did not hesitate to greet him with a knife in his hand. It seemed that he wanted to kill him. "You." As soon as Caesar said the word "you," a group of people rushed out from behind and quickly grabbed Shi Shang. She was pressed to the ground and injected with drugs. Gradually, she stopped struggling. Someone glanced at him and Caesar raised his hand, indicating that he was just passing by. A stranger. To him, that was all. The other party obviously did not want to cause trouble and dragged Shi Shang away. The look in Shi Shang's eyes when he left was something that Caesar could not forget for many years. It was not full of resentment, but cold and gloomy. It was not the look of a child. Chapter 1944. After she was captured and brought back to the Shi family, she was locked up in the cell again. This time, Shi Xian asked her to open the door again. Shi Shang did not resist, but the result was the same as before. The door did not move at all. Shi Shang calmly suggested that she was too weak, and this statement might be consistent with what some people said. Out of confidence in himself, Shi Xian felt that Shi Shang could not do anything, so he let Shi Shang learn with the Shi family. Shi Shang kept learning and working hard to become stronger. Shi Xian would occasionally let her try to open the door, but the result was naturally not what she wanted. Shi Shang began to secretly search for the Shi family's secrets. She used a year to find out why Shi Xian wanted to open the door and why Shi Xian valued her so much. Legend had it that when the interstellar era arrived, the ancestors of the Shi family left behind a lot of wealth and vitality behind the door for their descendants. Since ancient times, there had been an unwritten rule that the direct descendants were in charge. It was the same at that time. The door could only be opened by the direct descendants. However, after so many years of development, there would always be people who tried to usurp the throne. After so many years, who knew who the direct descendants were? Perhaps they were already dead. Even if they were alive, no one knew where they were. When it came to Shi Xian's generation, all the big families began to decline, and the Shi family was no exception. They just looked good. The only ones who could support the Shi family were Shi Xian and a few elders. Shi Xian wanted to open the door and make the Shi family stronger. He also seemed to want something from it. It was not that he did not think of using advanced technology to open the door, but the door was indestructible. No advanced technology was effective. Shi Xian did not dare to use anything more effective. He was afraid that he would blow up the door. Therefore, someone suggested to use the most talented person in the Shi family to try. The Shi family had the time flower as a guide. When an extremely talented person was born, the time flower would give a hint. Shi Xian waited for nearly 100 years, and the first person born with the time flower's guidance came. It was not Shi Shang, but his eldest son's daughter, Shi Yu. His eldest son was against his actions. After Shi Yu was born, their family moved out of the Shi family's main residence. It was not easy for Shi Xian to wait for this opportunity. Naturally, he would not give it up. He secretly got someone to extract Shi Yu's blood, but the result disappointed him. Just when he thought there was no hope, the second person guided by the time flower was born. It should have been a happy thing for the Shi family to have two talented geniuses in succession, but Shi Xian did not think so. Back then, as a direct descendant, he was almost squeezed out by a collateral relative. That person was Shi Mu's father. Shi Mu's father was also very talented and had always been learning with the direct descendants. However, his views were extremely different from Shi Mu's. At that time, the head of the family was more inclined towards Shi Mu's father. Sometimes, for the better development of the family, some family heads would not choose a direct descendant as their successor. If he hadn't decisively snatched the position of the patriarch, he wouldn't have been able to do anything now. He hated Shi Mu's father and felt that he was coveting the position of the head of the family. Due to the fact that he had just become the head of the family and Shi Mu's father was one of the most talented people in the family, the elders were watching, so he could not openly deal with him. Later, Shi Mu's father finally died, but who knew that another Shi Mu would appear? Shi Mu's temper was exactly the same as his father's. Every time he saw him, it was as if he was looking at Shi Mu's father. He was furious, but as the head of the family, he could not be calculative with a junior. Until Shi Shang was born, she was actually like his granddaughter. What right did she have? When Shi Xian was young, He almost lost the position of the head of the Shi family because of Shi Mu's father. So, after so many years, he had always remembered it. Shi Yu was his granddaughter. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. He could not do anything to Shi Yu. Even taking her blood was done behind his eldest son's back. However, Shi Shang was different. She was the granddaughter of the person he hated the most. Even if he had to sacrifice her, he would not care. When she was just born, he tried to use her blood to open the door, but the result was the same as Shi Yu's. There was no reaction. After that, he believed what others said, thinking that she was too young and too weak. The ancestor who closed the door back then could cross time and space, so he gave Shi Shang the name and left them to their own devices. The appearance of a genius meant that their family would gain a foothold in the Shi family, so he ordered that this matter not be spread. When he found out that Shi Mu's leg was broken, he immediately chased them out of the Shi family's main residence. Although Shi Xian saw them being chased out, he sent people to keep an eye on them. When he found out that Shi Mu was not doing badly, but was getting better, he could not sit still. After thinking about it for a while, he decided to send people to capture them. Shi Shang was already 10 years old. Perhaps she already had the ability to do so. What happened next was just like how things developed. Shi Shang did not know what exactly happened in her grandfather's generation that made Shi Xian so afraid of her grandfather, whom she had never met or heard her father mention. However, Shi Xian dragged the grudges of the previous generation into the next generation, and even the third generation, which was enough to show his state of mind. Hey! Suddenly, someone patted his shoulder. Shi Shang closed the small booklet in his hand, took out the knife at his waist, and stabbed without hesitation. Ah! The girl exclaimed. Her red dress flashed, and she easily avoided her attack. The girl supported herself with the vines beside her. It's me, Shi Yu. Shi Shang frowned at the girl. The girl was very beautiful, and her clear eyes seemed to be able to speak. She was looking at her with a speechless expression. Aren't you too nervous? This is the Shi family. Shi Shang put the knife back at his waist and replied coldly, It's precisely because it's the Shi family. Shi Yu was stunned for a moment. Thinking that she was different from them, she felt a little awkward. Shi Shang touched the uneven surface of the booklet and turned slightly. Thank you for the assessment. If it was not for the weapon that Shi Yu gave her, she might not have been able to walk out. You're welcome. Shi Yu smiled. She tried to get closer to Shi Shang, but Shi Shang hid the booklet behind his back and looked at her coldly. Shi Yu was a little frightened by his gaze. She stopped in her tracks and awkwardly tried to find a topic. I saw that your posture was a little wrong. Do you want to practice with me? He won't allow it. Shi Shang turned around and left. That, he, was naturally referring to Shi Xian. Although she could learn with the Shi family, their progress was different from hers. Moreover, those people could not teach her. She could only rely on herself to understand and figure out everything. If I don't say anything, who will know if you don't say anything? Shi Yu caught up with Shi Shang and reached out to grab her wrist. Let's go. I'll bring you to a place where no one will find out. Shi Yu pulled her and ran in a direction. She winked playfully at her. I don't have much time to come back. If you miss this opportunity, you won't have another chance. Asterisk hashtag today's almond-eyed lotus flavored ticket hashtag new book release on the 20th? Ah la la. Chapter 1945. Shi Yu led Shi Shang through the back garden of the Shi family's main residence. Behind the garden was a lush green forest. Shi Yu led her to an open space with ease. What do you think? Pretty, right? Shi Yu seemed to be showing Shi Shang her territory and was a little proud. Yes. After getting Shi Shang's affirmative answer, Shi Yu beamed. Come on, let's have a spa first. Shi Shang hesitated, but the person opposite her had already swung a fist at her. The fist carried a sharp gust of wind, causing her to instinctively counterattack. As the eldest daughter of the Shi family, even though Shi Yu had moved out of the main residence, everything in the main residence was still the best. The things she learned were untouched by ordinary people. At that time, Shishang didn't know if Shiryu thought it was fun or if she really wanted to teach her. A fiery red figure fell from the tree and attacked Shishang's back. Shishang rolled to the side pathetically. Shiryu hooked her arm and pulled her back. Then, Shishang fell to the ground. Shishang lay on the ground and panted slightly. In fact, if she had gone all out, Shiryu wouldn't have let her be in such a sorry state. The moves these people learned might be very regular, but she didn't want flashy moves. She only wanted techniques that could kill in one move. And these could only be learned through practice. Shiryu let go of Shishang and pulled her up from the ground. I will be at the Shi family's house for a while. I will come here every day. If you want to find me, you can come here. Thank you. No matter what Shiryu's motive was, Shishang still thanked her. However, she didn't look for Shiryu again and continued to do her own things. Shiryu would come to look for her occasionally, but she probably saw that she wasn't interested in teaching, so she didn't mention it again. Not long after, Shiryu and her parents left the main residence. That was the first time Shishang met Shiryu's parents. They were very young, but there was unhappiness between their eyebrows. Obviously, they weren't happy at the Shi family's house. When they left, they didn't even look back. Shishang stood behind them and watched them leave. There was no emotion on his face, and no one knew what he was thinking. In the following year, Shishang never saw Shiryu's family again. Even during the festive season every year, they did not return, as if they had severed all ties with the Shi family. On the other hand, Shishang was still determined to open that door. Shishang endured and allowed herself to become stronger. Her personality became more and more gloomy. Those who dared to bully her in the beginning gradually distanced themselves from her. If you want to fight with her, you have to be prepared to get hurt. She won't stop until you see blood. If it weren't for the fact that they were in the Shi family, they would have suspected that she would have killed him. Galactic Calendar, Year 1593. Shishang persuaded Shishang to board the warship and go to the front line with the army. Don't ask her how she convinced Shishang. Anyway, as long as she mentioned that door, Shishang would probably agree. Together with the Shi family was the fourth Prince Caesar's team. Caesar was very smart and won every battle beautifully. Shishang was just venting. She couldn't kill those who bullied her in the Shi family. She still needed space to grow. But on the battlefield, she didn't have to worry about anything. Gradually, her reputation spread among the team. They won this battle very quickly. On the day they set off for the return journey, Shishang took the opportunity to slip away. However, Shishang knew that she was able to leave the warship successfully because the fourth prince helped her. If he didn't deliberately call away the patrolling soldiers, she would have been discovered long ago. She stole a small fighter jet and left quietly, entering the vast universe. However, she didn't expect that Shishang's men would discover her so quickly. She didn't run far before she was discovered. After being chased all the way, she sneaked into another team when they were retrieving their fighter jet. Perhaps she was lucky. The color of her fighter jet was very similar to the color of the other team's fighter jet. Those people were careless and didn't notice her as an outsider. It was also at that time that she met Xia Chu. That year, Shishang was 15 years old and Xia Chu was 14. At that time, Shishang was lying in the pitch-black warehouse. She was in a daze and could vaguely hear crying. The crying tortured her ears and seemed to affect the injuries on her body. Her nerves began to twitch one by one. After listening for a while, she finally couldn't take it anymore. She propped herself up and wanted to kill the person who was crying so miserably. She carefully approached the person who was squatting in the corner. She gathered all her strength and strangled the other party's neck. The other party's crying stopped abruptly. Shishang could feel that the other party was looking at her. Shishang tightened her grip, and the other party groaned in pain. Shishang wanted to strangle her to death, but halfway through, she used up all her strength. She half knelt on the ground and panted heavily. Are you okay? Idiot. Shishang cursed in her heart. Why didn't she run at this time? However, she really didn't run. Instead, she leaned towards her and asked carefully, "Are you hurt?" Shi Sheng didn't want to speak. She felt that if she spoke, she would lose a few minutes of her life. Shi Sheng looked at the little girl who was crying in the warehouse. She seemed to be gullible, so she ordered her to open the warehouse and look for medicine. At that time, Shi Sheng didn't have a conscience. She was on her last breath, and living was her last obsession. At that time, Shi Sheng was prepared to be discovered. She could only take a gamble. However, she didn't expect the little girl to be so gullible. She really found the medicine for her and didn't tell anyone. "Well, I only found this. Take off your clothes and I'll apply the medicine for you." The little girl took the emergency light and half knelt beside Shi Sheng. She looked at her nervously and uneasily. Shi Sheng took off her clothes. Under the tattered clothes, her body was covered with bruises. The little girl had probably never seen such a scene before. Her hands trembled as she held the medicine. After a while, she closed her eyes and applied the medicine on Shi Sheng as if she was on a battlefield. Shi Sheng gritted her teeth and didn't say a word. She didn't dare to compliment her skills. However, she couldn't see what happened next, so she could only bear with it. It's done." After applying the medicine, the little girl collapsed. "How did you get such serious injuries? Why are you hiding here? Why are you hiding here?" Shi Sheng asked. The little girl stuttered. "I secretly followed my brother up here. In the end, I was locked up here." "Your brother?" "Yes." The little girl's eyes lit up. Her face was full of admiration. "My brother is amazing." "Is that so?" "Yes." The little girl nodded. "What's your name?" Shi Sheng paused. "Shi Sheng." The little girl blinked. "Shi Sheng? Sheng as in music of the four seas?" Shi Sheng looked at the little girl. "Music of the four seas? My brother told me about it. I heard that a long time ago, this word meant peace in the world. My brother's wish was for peace in the world." The little girl paused and said regretfully, "Before the end of the era, Shang was an ancient musical instrument. I heard that it was very beautiful, but we can't hear it anymore." Chapter 1946. That was the first time Shi Shang had heard of her name. After a while, she said, "My name doesn't have that many meanings. It means that I'm as lowly as a weed." The little girl's eyes widened. Apparently, she also remembered that the usage of the word Shang in the galaxy was completely different from the last era. She opened her mouth but did not say anything for a long time. Her brother liked to study ancient culture very much. Under the influence of his eyes and ears, she also knew a lot. She often saw the word music of the four seas in her brother's study, so it left a deep impression on her. The little girl scratched her head. "My name is Xia Chu. Because I was born in Chu Xia, it's Xia Chu in reverse." "You're from the Xia family?" Shi Sheng asked calmly. "Is your brother Xia Lin?" "Yes." The little girl was not prepared at all. "Do you know my brother?" "No." How could she know a genius like Xia Lin? When he became famous, she was still growing up under the protection of Shi Mu and Lu Ziyue. But then she added, "I've heard of him." Xia Chu was really too innocent. Looking at her was like looking at Shi Lu. If they did not have these things, Shi Lu would also be so innocent and kind and grow up without worries. Unfortunately, Xia Chu let Shi Shang recuperate in the warehouse. Occasionally, someone would come to the warehouse to take something, so she carefully hid her. Every time, she was the one who was the most nervous. Xia Chu sat cross-legged beside Shi Sheng. The faint light of the emergency light shone on her sharp chin. "You're Shi Sheng. Are you from the Shi family?" The surnames of the big families were special. Very few ordinary people would use this surname. Even if they did, it could be traced back to the main family. "You can say that." Shi Shang's spirit was much better. Perhaps it was because Xia Chu did not have the aura that she hated, her attitude towards her was much better. "My brother said that the Shi family Xia Chu paused and laughed embarrassedly. She changed the topic. Then why did you appear on my brother's warship? And you're so embarrassed. Shi Shang glanced at her and said lightly, running for my life. Xia Chu's eyes widened slightly. It was probably the first time she heard the word, running for her life. What did your brother say about the Shi family? No, nothing. Xia Chu waved her hand. Shi Shang looked at Xia Chu. Under his gaze, Xia Chu was a little scared. She lowered her head and said weakly, my brother said that if the Shi family continues to let the current head of the family take over, it will be over sooner or later. That's not what my brother said. Xia Chu raised her head again. My brother heard it from the elders in the clan. I accidentally overheard it. That's right. Shi Shang's gaze fell on the emergency lights. The light gathered in her pupils, reflecting the coldness in her eyes. Xia Chu stared at her blankly. She didn't know what she was thinking, but her heart ached for Shi Shang even more. Xia Chu was different from Shi Yu. When Shi Yu got close to her, there was always a faintly discernible emotion. She could feel that he was not sincere. Perhaps it was sympathy, or perhaps it had other motives, but she didn't need any of those. However, Xia Chu was different. She did not have any ulterior motives when she approached him. She only approached him because she was in the warehouse and he did not want her to be alone in the dark. In the end, they were still discovered. Shi Shang's injury was half healed. When he was discovered, he subconsciously wanted to hit them. However, Xia Chu held his hand and looked up at the person who discovered them. I want to see my brother. The other party obviously knew Xia Chu and was a little embarrassed. Miss, you can't let an unknown person be with you. Xia Chu held his hand even tighter. Then lock me up too. In the end, Xia Chu was still taken away. When Xia Chu was taken away, she told Shi Shang to wait for her and that she would find her brother to save her. For some reason, Shi Shang did not resist and was locked up in the interrogation room on the warship. Compared to the prison cell, the environment in the interrogation room was much better. Shi Shang sat quietly on the chair with his head lowered and did not speak. Brother. Outside the interrogation room, Xia Chu hugged Xia Lin's waist and acted coquettishly. She's really not a bad person. She's my friend. I asked her to accompany me. Xia Lin held his sister helplessly. This is a warship. There are military rules. But... Xia Chu glanced at the interrogation room and pursed her lips. Brother, she's really my friend. She's not a spy. Don't you even believe me? Xia Lin. Shi Shang was locked up for a day. In the end, Xia Lin resisted the pressure and got him out. Are you from the Shi family? This was the first sentence Xia Lin said when he saw him. Shi Shang looked up at him and did not deny or admit it. Xia Lin's eyes darkened. He left with Shi Shang and Xia Chu. When there was no one around, he said, those people who were loitering outside the warship were looking for you, right? I don't care what grudges you have with the Shi family, but I hope you don't involve my Xiao Chu. I'll leave tomorrow. Brother. Xia Chu widened her eyes. How can you say that? Xiao Chu. Xia Lin's face darkened. I'll deal with you when we get back. You'll leave tomorrow. I'll treat it as if you never came. Xia Lin looked angry. Xia Chu was a little scared. She pursed her lips and looked at Xia Lin, trying to persuade him with her pitiful eyes. However, Xia Lin did not buy it. Thank you. Shi Shang thanked him sincerely. Xia Lin's expression softened. He patted Xia Chu's head. Take him to his room. Don't come out without my permission. Xia Chu stuck her tongue out at Xia Lin and muttered something. Xia Lin helplessly wanted to hit Xia Chu. Xia Chu dragged Shi Shang and ran away. After running for a distance, she turned back and made a face at Xia Lin. Xia Chu took Shi Shang to the room Xia Lin had arranged for her. She pressed Shi Shang onto the bed. Don't be afraid. My brother is stubborn but soft-hearted. I'll beg him when he's free. My brother loves me the most. He'll definitely agree. Have you ever thought? Shi Shang opened his mouth. What? Shi Shang looked at the little girl in front of him. Maybe I'm a bad person. How could that be? Xia Chu shook her head and leaned closer to Shi Shang. She smiled and said, Do you think I'm gullible? I know you wanted to kill me at first, but I was really scared in that place. I wasn't scared because you were with me. Now, I can feel that you're not a bad person. Shi Shang was silent. What did she mean by he thought she was gullible? He was gullible to begin with. Xia Chu raised her head proudly. I have a special ability. It's useless, Shi Shang said mercilessly. Xia Chu's face fell. Why are you like this? My special ability is very useful. Just like now, I know you don't have any bad intentions. Although it's not very effective most of the time, it's not wrong when it's effective. Sensing the good and evil of others. How could this special ability not be useless? It was not always effective. Human nature was fickle. 1 second, he might be kind to you, but the next second, he might want to kill you. Don't use anything to measure human nature. Disappointment was greater than hope. #hashtag today, I'm begging for votes #little cuties. Vote for me every month. Don't be a coward. Dear Cherub, please vote for my new book. Heart sign, search for the title of the book, Time Travel System. The Attack of the Villain Boss. Introduction. When the ultimate villain boss becomes a psychopath who doesn't play by the rules, protagonists who transmigrated and were reborn, have you prepared your strategy? This mission is very difficult to complete. Reborn protagonist. I don't want to be reborn, let me die. Transmigrated protagonist. I don't want to transmigrate, let me go back. Transmigrated protagonist. Is this hell mode? The villain can go to heaven. What happened to being a stepping stone? Director, I suspect that I got a fake script. Blackened protagonist. I'm not doing this anymore? Ming Shu. Next. A certain man. Benefactor, are you cultivating immortality? You can choose any of the 72 immortal cultivation postures. Ming Shu. Get out. #mission mode, normal, difficult, hell. Ming Shu ## guest. Kill yourself if you don't like it #. Chapter 1947. Shi Shang felt that she could not continue the conversation with this self-proclaimed smart girl in front of her. She tilted her head and looked at the ground. I'll leave tomorrow. Xia Chu suddenly approached her, her little face full of nervousness. Why? I told my brother that he won't chase you away. We're in space now. How can you go back if you leave alone? Shi Shang pursed her lips. After a few seconds of silence, she said, This is my own business. I can't implicate you. What do you mean by your own business? Aren't we friends? Shouldn't friends help each other? Friends? She had wanted to kill her the first time they met. She still wanted to treat her as a friend. Was this person really stupid or just plain stupid? Shi Shang mentally prepared herself to mock the little girl in front of her and tell her not to trust others so easily. But as soon as she looked up, she met Xia Chu's eyes. It was a pair of clear eyes, like thousands of stars in the galaxy. They were so bright that she could not look away. Xia Chu's eyes were so focused and sincere that Shi Shang's mocking words were stuck. She changed the topic. How long have we known each other? How can we be friends? Friends? Does this have anything to do with how long we've known each other? Xia Chu's long eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. Her pink lips opened and closed. I like you, so you're my friend. Why do you have to make it so complicated? Shi Shang glanced at Xia Chu's fair face. She was very close to her now, so close that she could reach out and strangle her neck. Shi Shang stepped back and turned her head away. I can't stay here. Why? Xia Chu persistently asked Shi Shang why. Shi Shang could only use her promise to Xia Lin as an excuse. She did not know how much the Shi family feared the Xia family. She did not know if she would be safe here. Would she be in danger? Shi Shang was stunned and her eyes fell on Xia Chu again. The next second, she cruelly looked away. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Xia Chu was not Shi Lu. Don't be silly. Shi Lu was already dead. Shi Shang had planned to leave the next day, and Xia Lin had prepared everything for her. However, before she could leave the next day, Xia Lin's entire fleet was attacked. The warship entered combat mode, and no one was allowed to enter or leave without reason. Shi Shang could only wait for them to finish. But this time, Xia Lin seemed to have met a difficult opponent, and there was no result even after fighting for a long time. Xia Chu didn't understand these things. At first, she was happy that Shi Shang could stay, so she pulled Shi Shang along and chattered endlessly. Her chattering was very similar to when Shi Lu was pestering her. However, Xia Chu soon realized that the atmosphere on the warship was not right. Xia Lin was in a hurry every day, and the expression on his face was getting more and more serious. Xia Chu couldn't help but worry. Even if she didn't know much about the battlefield, she knew the cruelty of war. Her brother shouldered countless lives on his shoulders. Brother, brother. Xia Chu chased after Xia Lin. Xia Lin was forced to stop in his tracks. He waved his hand to signal the others to leave first. He waited for Xia Chu to come closer and touched her head lovingly. What's wrong? Nothing. Xia Chu reached out and hugged Xia Lin's waist. Brother will definitely win. Xia Lin's furrowed brows relaxed a little. The tiredness of the past few days seemed to dissipate a little with his sister's words. He hugged Xia Chu back. Go back quickly. Don't run around on the warship if you have nothing to do. Stay in your room obediently, okay? Okay. Xia Chu's willfulness and arrogance had its limits. She knew that Xia Lin was physically and mentally exhausted at this time, and she couldn't cause him any trouble. Xia Chu let go of Xia Lin and waved Shi Shang over. Shi Shang stood at the corner. Xia Chu waved at him, and he slowly walked over and exchanged glances with Xia Lin. Xia Lin reached out and rubbed Xia Chu's head again. Go back quickly. Xia Chu held Shi Shang's hand and left. Shi Shang slightly pulled Xia Chu back and looked up at Xia Lin. Is your opponent Levi? Xia Lin's brows, which had just relaxed, furrowed again. He looked at Shi Shang with a scrutinizing gaze. Shi Shang wasn't afraid of his gaze. I saw their logo earlier. Levi is a very suspicious person. You can try to send someone to attack from the flank and lure them away. He definitely won't believe you. Stay where you are. If you're smart enough, you can break through their defense from the flank and take them down in one fell swoop. The first part of the sentence explained how he knew who Xia Lin's opponent was. The second part was a way to break the stalemate. She pursed her lips and spoke again. I don't mean anything else. I just want to leave this place as soon as possible. I don't want to be found by them. Shi Shang nodded slightly and left with a confused Xia Chu. Xia Lin stared at Shi Shang's back until he disappeared around the corner. Then, he rubbed his fingers thoughtfully. After a discussion, Xia Lin adopted Shi Shang's suggestion. Just as Shi Shang said, Levi was a very suspicious person. When Xia Lin sent someone to attack their flank, Levi thought that they were trying to lure him away, so he left most of his troops in place. He only realized it when his flank was breached. However, it was too late. Levi immediately retreated. Xia Lin won this battle. The people on the fleet were more open-minded about the fact that Xia Lin had used his military rank to lure Shi Shang out. There wasn't such a big gap between them. But Xia Lin was well aware that the reason he was able to win this battle was all because of that Shi Shang. Before he met Levi, there was very little information about him. It was even more impossible for him to know what kind of person Levi was. Xia Lin rejected his colleague's invitation. He didn't even take off his military uniform. He went straight to Xia Chu's room. Xia Chu and Shi Shang were playing games in the room. Xia Chu probably didn't have any gaming talent. It was a very simple game, but she couldn't play it well. She kept yelling at Shi Shang and insisted on killing him too. Shi Shang watched as his character fell to the ground. Several dialogue boxes popped up on the virtual screen. Nowadays, everyone was playing holographic games. This kind of game couldn't even be considered a standalone game. Shi Shang could pass it with his eyes closed. However, Xia Chu was causing trouble and died halfway. In the past, when she played games at home, Shirley wanted to play with her. It was the same. Shi Shang's thoughts were a little absent-minded. He felt that someone was looking at him. He suddenly came back to his senses and looked outside the room. Xia Lin was shocked. What a sharp perception. Knowing that he had been discovered, he calmed himself down and pushed the door open. Xiao Chu. Xia Chu stood up from the ground and threw herself into Xia Lin's arms. She looked up at him and asked, "Brother, did you win?" Xia Lin habitually patted Xia Chu's head and said gently, "Yes, I won. I knew you were the best." Xia Chu praised her brother generously. She was happy from the bottom of her heart. She was happy for her brother. "Little Chu, can you go get your brother something to eat?" "Okay, have a seat." Xia Chu didn't go out immediately. Instead, she looked at Shi Shang. "Ah Shang, do you want to eat something?" Shi Shang shook his head. "Then I'll bring you kidney bean rolls." Shi Shang. Little cuties, the new book has been released. Search for Transmigration System, Villain Boss Attack. You can see the new book. Don't vote for this book. Little cuties, please vote for the new book because it's not on the shelves yet. You can't vote for it. So, you can still vote for this book. Love you guys, vote for the new book. Vote for the new book. I'll vote for Shi Shang. Chapter 1948. Shi Shang knew that Xia Lin had sent Xia Chu away because he had something to say to her. Hence, after Xia Chu left, Shi Shang stood up from the ground. Xia Lin looked at Shi Shang with a complicated gaze. He already had information about this girl. She was Shi Mu's daughter from a side branch of the Shi family. He knew Shi Mu. He used to be in the 6th Division and had earned a lot of military merits. He was very famous among the major divisions and was only one step away from the rank of general. However, he was only one step away. He was injured on the battlefield and lost both his legs. Since then, he had bid farewell to his military career. However, after he returned, he was not like the other injured soldiers who received compensation. Instead, he went into business and made a name for himself. A few years ago, Shi Mu's family suddenly disappeared and all of Shi Mu's assets were returned to the Shi family. Outsiders like them did not know what was going on, but the girl standing in front of him was Shi Mu's daughter. "What do you want to ask?" Shi Shang saw that Xia Lin did not speak for a long time, so he spoke first. The girl in front of him was about the same age as his sister, but she had a gloomy and strange personality. Her eyes were cold, but under that ice, there was calmness and rationality, as well as vigilance. This was not an expression that a child should have. A teenager in the interstellar era would only be a child of 3 or 4 years old in the past. Xia Lin suppressed the strange feeling in his heart and asked, "How do you know that Levi is suspicious?" Shi Shang guessed that Xia Lin was going to ask about this, so he did not hide it. "I came with the 6th Division and happened to see Levi's information. It mentioned something. The 6th Division. Every family would send people to serve in different divisions. The Xia family was in the 3rd Division and the Shi family was in the 6th Division. This time, he received orders that the 6th Division would cooperate in the battle. However, he was not the one who contacted the 6th Division, so he was not very clear about the situation there." Xia Lin did not speak for a long time. It was only when Xia Chu came back that he smiled warmly like an older brother. Before he left, Xia Lin did not say that he wanted to send Shi Shang away. Xia Chu whispered to him mysteriously for a long time. When Xia Lin finally left, Xia Chu smiled like a cat that had stolen a fish. "Ah Shang, your brother said that he can send you to a safe place." Xia Chu winked at her. Shi Shang frowned slightly. You are not allowed to refuse." Xia Chu put her hands on her hips. "It's so dangerous outside. I'm so worried about you leaving alone." My brother finally agreed. It was the vast universe outside. Even if they had prepared enough food and emergency supplies, who knew what they would encounter in the universe? Xia. All right, it's settled then. Shi Shang probably had the best sleep in the past few years on the warship. She hesitated for a long time, but in the end, she did not force herself to leave. Shi Shang regretted it once. If she had insisted on leaving at that time, Xia Lin might not have gotten into trouble. Xia Chu would not lose her brother. She would still be that kind and innocent girl, growing up happily under her brother's protection. In the end, he wouldn't be used by Caesar. Of course, Shi Shang didn't know that at this time. She only knew that she was too tired and needed a place to rest. Xia Chu gave her such a place and gave her the warmth that she had not felt for a long time. What happened next caught everyone off guard. Xia Lin cleaned up the battlefield. For some reason, they landed on a desolate planet. Xia Chu was very curious about the outside world. She avoided people and mysteriously dragged Shi Shang to the mecha room. There was a word, how should I put it, destined. Usually, the mecha room was locked. However, when Xia Chu went there, she happened to see someone checking the door. Those people seemed to have found something wrong and turned to report. Xia Chu dragged Shi Shang and slipped into the mecha room. The person outside just turned around for a while and didn't expect someone to sneak in. After checking the door, he closed it and left. Xia Chu and Shi Shang stood in rows of mechas. She looked at Shi Shang with shining eyes. Ah Shang, you know how to pilot a mecha, right? Yes. Shi Shang nodded. What's wrong? My brother never lets me touch a mecha. Can you take me to pilot a mecha? She had been aiming for a mecha for a long time, but her brother forbade her to touch one because she was too weak. Her mental strength was weak when she was young. Unlike a mecha required mental strength. Xia Lin forbade her from touching a mecha for her own good. However, people had a weakness. The more they were not allowed to touch something, the more they yearned for it. Shi Shang frowned. This is a battlefield. If you like it, you can wait for me. I'll wait for you to go back and ask your brother to take you. Although there were Xia Lin's men nearby, this was a war. It was not safe. Shi Shang was not willing to take her there. Moreover, this was a private action. If it was discovered in the military, even Xia Chu would be punished. Xia Lin was already under pressure to keep an unknown person like her on the warship. If something happened again, it would not be good for anyone. Let's go out. Shi Shang took the initiative to drag Xia Chu out. Ah Shang, good Ah Shang, please. Xia Chu hugged her arm and hooked her feet to the side. She looked at Shi Shang eagerly. Shi Shang shook his head with a straight face. Ah Shang, my good Ah Shang, my brother won't allow me to get on the mecha, but I really want to pilot it once. Please, help me. Just this once. My brother's men are all around here. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Shi Shang still shook his head. If you don't go back, I'll go back. Xia Chu quickly hugged Shi Shang's waist and said shamelessly, Ah Shang, among the people I know, everyone listens to my brother. You're the only one who knows how to pilot a mecha. You don't listen to my brother. Just this once. We won't go far. We'll stay nearby. Don't worry, if my brother finds out, I'll take all the responsibility. Xia Chu quickly promised. No. Xia Chu pouted and looked at Shi Shang pitifully. Ah Shang, are you going to treat me so heartlessly? Shi Shang was speechless. How was she heartless? She was doing it for her own good. Xia Chu's tears had accumulated and she was ready to cry. At that time, if Shi Shang had been more rational, she would not have given in to Xia Chu's tears and firmly rejected her. However, at that time, Shi Shang was only 15 years old. It had only been 2 years since she lost Shi Lu. She could always see Shi Li's shadow in Xia Chu. She agreed in the end. Xia Chu quickly stopped crying. I know Ah Shang is the best. I like Ah Shang the most. Shi Shang opened the mecha and stood for a long time before getting in. Xia Chu touched the inside excitedly with a face full of smiles. At that time, Xia Chu did not expect that because of her willfulness, her brother's life would be ruined, and her future life would also be ruined. #hashtag today's drunken fishwort votes #little cuties. The new book has been released. Search for Transmigration System. The Villain Boss Attacks. You can see the new book. Don't vote for this book. Please vote for the new book, because it was not on the shelves. You can't vote for it. So, you can still vote for this book. Sob sob sob. Love you all. Vote for the new book. Vote for the new book. I'll vote for Shi Sheng. I'll vote for Shi Sheng. Chapter 1949. Shi Sheng hadn't expected there to be a problem with the mecha either. It brought her and Xia Chu out of the safe zone Xia Lin had drawn out. But just as she was about to bring Xia Chu back, she was intercepted by Lei Wei's men. Ah Sheng. Xia Chu and Shi Sheng were locked together. Her face was pale. Did I get into trouble? She heard that those men wanted to inform her brother and asked him to come alone. Shi Sheng remained silent. Levi's men were cruel and merciless, unlike her in the Shi family. Shi Xian would always spare her life if he needed her. She only dared to plan her escape because of this. But here, she was just an accessory. She couldn't even guarantee Xia Chu's safety. As expected, she was still too weak. Ah Sheng. Shi Sheng reached out to hug Xia Chu and patted her back. Don't worry. You'll be fine for now. Your brother will come and save you. As for her, she didn't know. Perhaps Levi would use her as a warning to Xia Lin. Xia Lin came faster than Shi Sheng expected. He came alone at Levi's request. Levi brought Shi Sheng and Xia Chu out. Xia Lin looked at Shi Sheng coldly. Shi Sheng pursed her lips and lowered her gaze. She didn't look directly at Xia Lin. If she hadn't promised Xia Chu, they wouldn't have ended up like this. It was understandable that Xia Lin blamed her. Let them go. Xia Lin retracted his gaze and looked at Levi, who was smiling proudly. Ha ha ha, the rumors are true. You love this sister the most. Levi looked up and laughed. Xia Lin, you don't have the right to negotiate with me now. The men behind Levi aimed their weapons at Shi Sheng and Xia Chu. Xia Lin's muscles tensed up. He clenched his fists desperately to stop himself from rushing over. What do you want? Levi took 2 steps forward. So many of my brothers died in your hands. If you kill yourself to atone for your sins, I'll let them go. Xia Lin's pupils constricted. A dark light flickered in his eyes. His true emotions couldn't be seen. What do you think, Xia Lin? These 2 young ladies with delicate skin and tender flesh. If they were here, they could be considered as a blessing. If you don't want to, then leave them behind. We'll meet on the battlefield. Xia Chu probably sensed the malicious intent in Levi's words, so she moved closer to Shi Sheng. How can I believe that you will really let them go? Xia Lin's voice was cold. I, Levi, won't go as far as to bicker with 2 little girls. Levi coldly snorted. Xia Lin didn't say anything, his gaze fixed on Levi. Levi cursed and shouted, Didn't you come in a mecha? When I caught them, there were only the 2 of them inside the mecha. This proves that they know how to operate a mecha. After they leave, it won't be too late for you to kill yourself. No, brother. Xia Chu shook her head. Take Ah Sheng and leave. Don't worry about me. She could not let her brother agree to this person. She was the one who insisted on Shi Sheng bringing her out. It was all her fault. Xia Lin glanced at Xia Chu and answered Levi, Okay. Brother. Xia Chu roared, Don't agree with him. You can't agree with him. Take Ah Sheng away. I'll bear the consequences of my own actions. Ah. What a close sibling relationship. Levi wanted to kill Xia Lin immediately, but he couldn't rush it. Although Xia Lin came alone, he couldn't be underestimated. Let them go, Xia Lin said. Brother. Levi sneered and waved his hand. He moved the guns aimed at Xia Chu and Shi Sheng away. They were dragged to the other side. "Brother!" Xia Chu turned her head to look at the tall figure that was gradually surrounded by people. She was panicking. There was a voice in her heart that kept telling her that she couldn't leave. She couldn't leave, but she couldn't break free from these people. "Brother!" Xia Chu and Shi Sheng were finally stuffed into Xia Lin's Mecca. The door closed and the whole world quieted down. Just as Xia Chu was about to rush out, the door suddenly opened. Xia Lin was standing outside with Levi's men behind him. Xia Chu rushed into Xia Lin's arms. Xia Lin patted Xia Chu's head. "Be good. Go back first. Brother will come back for you." "No, brother. I want to be with you. I won't leave." Xia Chu choked. "I'm sorry, brother. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have disobeyed you." I'm sorry. Xia Lin sighed. He looked at Shi Sheng, who was still standing inside with a cold expression. He suddenly reached out and knocked Xia Chu out. He carried Xia Chu into the Mecca and put her into the resting cabin. After setting the time for sleep, he turned to Shi Sheng. "I'll leave Xia Chu to you. You have to bring her back safely." "You?" Xia Lin reached out his hand. "You just need to promise me." Shi Sheng took a deep breath. "I will." Xia Lin took one last look at Xia Chu and went to the control cabin to set the route. He then jumped out of the Mecca. "Hurry up. There will be people on the warship to pick you up." Xia Lin only left Shi Sheng with his back. Xia Chu didn't even get to see him for the last time. Levi broke his promise and sent people to intercept Shi Sheng midway. Shi Sheng took the risk and used the Mecca to perform a hyperdrive to escape. However, the hyperdrive caused great damage to her mental strength. She forced herself to send Xia Chu back to the warship. Shi Sheng fainted for a long time. When she woke up, the warship was already on its way back. Xia Lin's body was sent over by Levi. Xia Chu had been with Xia Lin all this time. There were many Xia family members on the warship. Xia Chu's safety was not a problem. However, these people were angry and blamed her. They thought that she was the one who took Xia Chu away and Xia Lin ended up like this in order to save them. They wanted to throw Shi Sheng into the galaxy. When Xia Chu heard the news, she rushed over in a white dress and stopped those people. Although those people were a little unwilling, Xia Chu was the daughter of the main family. Even if Xia Lin was gone, they didn't dare to offend her. In the end, they left angrily. Xia Chu had lost a lot of weight. Her body was so thin that it looked like a gust of wind could blow her away. She held Shi Sheng's hand. "Ah Sheng, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Xia Chu was in a bad mood. She pulled Shi Sheng back. "Ah Sheng, what should I do in the future?" If it weren't for her willfulness, her brother wouldn't have been in trouble. When she woke up, the person who was still alive was only a cold corpse. Shi Sheng opened her mouth several times, but no sound came out. She patted Xia Chu's shoulder silently. Xia Chu seemed to have found someone she could rely on. She suddenly turned around and hugged Shi Sheng. Other than Shi Lu, Shi Sheng rarely let anyone be so close to her. Even Shi Mu and Lu Ziyue had not been so close to her since she grew up. Xia Chu's cries were so desperate. Every sound seemed to tickle Shi Sheng's nerves. Asterisk little cuties, the new book has been released. Search for Crossover System. The Villain Boss Attacks. You can see the new book. Don't vote for this book. Please vote for the new book because it's not on the shelves. You can't vote for it. So, you can still vote for this book. Sob sob sob. Love you all. Vote for the new book. Vote for the new book. I'll vote for Shi Sheng. I'll vote for Shi Sheng. Chapter 1950. Shi Sheng changed his plan and accompanied Xia Chu back to the imperial capital. She was afraid that the Shi family would look for her, so she disguised herself. She cut off her long hair and put on a hat. Her clothes were more neutral, so she looked like a handsome young man at first glance. Xia Chu was in a better mood after Xia Lin's funeral. Xia Lin was gone, but she couldn't die with him. She had to fulfill her brother's unfulfilled wish, to sing for the world. Ah Sheng, why do you think people only wake up after losing something? Xia Chu lay beside Shi Shang and looked at the clouds in the sky. Her voice was a little sad. After losing her brother, she suddenly understood everything that she couldn't understand in the past. It was as if all the obstacles had disappeared with her brother's death. Shi Shang fiddled with his hat. We grow with blood. She didn't know what this girl, who was about her age, had experienced, but she knew that it must have been more difficult than what she was going through now. We grow with blood. He was right. Ah Shang knew. What should she do next? Shi Shang took off his hat. His short hair was blown by the wind, and his face was no longer childish. There was a hint of heroism. I want to become stronger. She wanted to become strong enough to overthrow the Shi family, avenge Shi Mu, retrieve Shi Li's remains from that place, and find her mother. Xia Chu suddenly grabbed Shi Shang's hand. Her gaze was firm. Let's become stronger together. Shi Shang looked at the hand holding his and smiled for a long time. Okay. Become stronger together. Shi Shang didn't stay in the Xia family. She left the Xia family and joined an interstellar pirate crew. As long as she felt that it was useful to her or would be useful in the future, she would work hard to learn it. She didn't stay in the interstellar pirate crew for long. When she left, she planned to look for Lu Ziyue. However, she suddenly received news that the Xia family was ostracizing Xia Chu. They were trying to let someone else take over, and Xia Chu might be in danger. She weighed the pros and cons and decided to return to the imperial capital planet. While she was away, Xia Chu did not have an easy time either. Xia Lin was her backer. Without him, other people who wanted to climb up the social ladder would naturally attack her with all their might. Although Shi Shang did not help much when he returned, he did help Xia Chu avoid danger several times. After Xia Chu gained a foothold in the Xia family, Shi Shang left in a hurry. Her time was running out. The Shi family would find her sooner or later. It took Shi Shang half a year to find out where Lu Ziyue was. But when she arrived, Lu Ziyue was already dead. Not even her bones were left behind. The people who had captured them were a group of mercenaries, and the person who had humiliated Shi Lu was the leader of the mercenaries. When Lu Ziyue left, the person who followed her was one of the mercenary leader's subordinates. At that time, she didn't know who did it, so she could only give in temporarily. Later, when those people were drunk and found out the truth, Lu Ziyue planned for a long time, but in the end, she only made the mercenary leader lose an eye. In this era, if an eye was lost, a new one could be installed. Other than the fact that it could be removed, there was no other effect. Lu Ziyue only angered the mercenary leader, but in the end, she paid with her life. Shi Shang had already guessed this result, but when she heard it, she suddenly hoped that Lu Ziyue had left to abandon them. At least that way, she was still alive. Shi Shang found it hard to accept. It was good that she was depressed. But in the end, she pulled through. She had to avenge them. Shi Shang did not avenge Lu Ziyue immediately. Instead, she asked around for detailed information. If she wanted to overthrow a mercenary group by herself, she needed a detailed plan. Like a hunter, she waited patiently. One day, the mercenary leader was going to make a deal with someone. She followed him all the way and found that there were very few people following the leader. She knew that her chance had come. Shi Shang knew that these people were not easy to deal with. She waited for them to finish the deal before taking action. At that time, there were only 3 people with the leader. Shi Shang had already killed one of them when they were making the deal. The other 2 were not easy to deal with either. Most importantly, they had more advanced weapons than her. When Shi Shang appeared, the mercenary leader tried to drive the hover car away. But when he found that the car was broken, he had no choice but to get out and run away with the things that the group of people gave him. Shi Shang took care of the 2 people and caught up with the mercenary leader. She had been practicing martial arts for the past few years. She had also learned a lot of sneak attacks from the pirate group. When the mercenary leader confronted Shi Shang, he did not take her seriously at first, probably because he thought that she was just a little girl. Shi Shang took advantage of this opportunity to kick the mercenary leader to the ground and hold him hostage before he could retaliate. The mercenary leader panicked and hugged the things in his arms tightly. "Who are you?" Shi Shang had been through a lot in this dirty world. Her personality had become increasingly strange and gloomy. At this time, in the eyes of the mercenary leader, Shi Shang was a girl who exuded a vicious aura. She did not match her age at all. But in this galaxy, appearance did not mean anything. If you discriminated against someone because of their appearance, you would be at a disadvantage. "Don't you remember me?" Shi Shang sneered and stabbed the knife in her hand into the mercenary leader's neck. "Then do you remember Lu Ziyue? Remember that little girl called Shi Lu a few years ago?" The knife stabbed into the man's blood vessels. It was like throwing ice cubes into boiling blood. It was cold to the bone. "You." The mercenary leader's face was pale. His throat kept making sounds, but he could not form a complete sentence. Shi Shang was expressionless from beginning to end. She stabbed the knife into the mercenary leader's neck. "I'm here to avenge them." The mercenary leader's eyes widened. It seemed that he wanted to say something, but all he could make was a muffled sound. Shi Shang pulled the knife out and stabbed him again. The same thing happened twice. The mercenary leader was unwilling to give up and breathed his last. Shi Shang staggered up from the ground. She also had many injuries on her body. She was just pretending not to show them in front of the mercenary leader. She was about to leave when she kicked the box in the mercenary leader's hand. The mercenary leader was still holding the box tightly. Shi Shang paused for a moment. Then she bent down and picked up the box. The box was a biometric lock. Shi Shang sat on the ground and pressed the mercenary leader's finger on the lock. Then she aimed the lock at the mercenary leader's eyes. After the scan was successful, the box opened, revealing the contents inside. The box had a cooling function. When it was opened, a gust of cold air came out. In the cold air, there were many small bottles. Shi Shang frowned slightly. She did not rashly touch the things inside. Instead, she looked around the box carefully. She found a very small logo on the bottles. It was a very famous pharmaceutical company with businesses in almost every galaxy. After a long time, Shi Shang closed the box. She slowly stood up from the ground and looked into the distance. From today onwards, she would get back at those who had bullied her with interest. ## begging for votes for Dongye Feng Wei today. #I recommend the new book. I'm going to rise soon. 233,333. Chapter 1951. Galactic Calendar 1595. That year, one of the most memorable events was the theft of RH Corporation's new genetic research results. It was said that RH Corporation claimed that this research could greatly improve interstellar genetic collapse. However, it was this research result that was stolen. Of course, this matter would not be discussed openly. Every organization found out through their own channels, and these people also had their eyes on this research result. One had to know that, in the galaxy, genetic collapse was almost a terminal illness. Other than the gene family in the Nether Galaxy, which could suppress genetic collapse for a longer period of time, no other organization had any effective methods. However, not everyone could afford to hire a family like the gene family. Now that RH Corporation had developed something, it could make a fortune. Just as the various organizations were searching for this research result, Shi Shang had already arrived at RH Corporation's headquarters with the item. When the higher-ups of RH Corporation heard that someone had returned the item, they were pleasantly surprised, but at the same time, they wondered what the person's motive was. Shi Shang sat in RH Corporation's reception room with the box in his hand. He looked calm and composed as he drank tea. His aura had been restrained, and the hostility around him was not as strong as before. However, there was still a hint of melancholy between his brows. When the person in charge of RH Corporation entered the room and saw this scene, he was slightly surprised. He had not expected that the person who had returned would be such a young lady. The person in charge coughed, straightened his body, and walked into the reception room. "Hello, I am the Vice President of RH Corporation. Miss, you have been waiting for a long time." The Vice President put on his usual business smile. No one could find anything wrong with it. Shi Shang put down his teacup and pushed the box on the table toward the Vice President. "This is your item. I only have one request." The Vice President's gaze landed on the box. He reached out to press it down and sat down. "May I know your name, miss?" "Shi Shang." Shi Shang revealed a strange smile. The Vice President repeated this name in his heart. "Shi Shang. Wasn't that someone from the Shi family in the Nether Galaxy?" The Vice President became more serious. "May I ask where you got this box, Miss Shi? Is it important where I got it? What's important is that I am returning it to you." The Vice President had reason to suspect that Shi Shang was acting. After all, this thing was very precious. Even if someone accidentally got it, they would not give it back so easily. "Do you think I can steal this from your company alone?" Shi Shang saw through the Vice President's thoughts and said directly, "Are you overestimating me or underestimating yourselves?" Vice President. Who knew what special abilities those ancient families had? The Vice President thought for a moment and said, "We still need to verify this thing." "Don't worry, Miss Shi. If it's really something that belongs to us, as long as it's something that our company can do, Miss Shi, please feel free to ask." Shi Shang gestured for her to enter. It was as if he wasn't afraid that they would go back on their word after taking the items. The Vice President took a few more glances at the calm young lady and asked someone to come in and take the box out. Soon, he knew why she was so fearless. There was only one bottle in the box, and the rest were gone. "Miss Shi, what do you mean by this? If you don't go back on your word, everything will be returned to you. If you go back on your word and try to do anything to me, all the samples will be sent to all the biological research companies immediately." Shi Shang spoke slowly. "This is just a way for me to protect myself. Don't be nervous." The Vice President, although he didn't want to do anything to this young lady, he couldn't help but admire her for arranging a way out for herself. This was much more threatening than hiding the thing. The Vice President took a deep breath and asked someone to check it. The thing was confirmed to be fine. It was the thing that they had lost. "Miss Shi, what do you want our company to do?" Now that the thing was confirmed, it was time to talk about the terms. Shi Shang looked at the Vice President and said, "It's nothing difficult." Half an hour later, the Vice President sat opposite Shi Shang with an ugly expression. "Miss Shi, we may not be able to do this. Please change your terms. We can pay you however much you want." "This is not a bad deal." Shi Shang tapped his fingers on his knee. "After this is done, 1/3 of the business will belong to you. All you have to do is to provide me with information and the necessary authentication." The Vice President almost couldn't help but roll his eyes. "Miss Shi, I don't know what kind of grudge you have with the Shi family, but everyone knows what kind of family they are. Our company doesn't want to provoke such a big family. Please change your terms." No one was willing to provoke those ancient families. No one knew how deep they were. "You think I will fail?" The Vice President. Wasn't it obvious? This little girl wanted to go against the Shi family alone. Other than seeking death, he couldn't think of any other reason. "Since you are not willing, I can only try to find another company." Shi Shang stood up. The Vice President was shocked and stood up as well. "Miss Shi, please wait. I can't make the decision. I need to ask the higher-ups." Looking for another company for help, wasn't that the same as giving the thing to another company? She was threatening people at such a young age, but she was even more subtle than some old foxes. Not only did she not embarrass the other party, but she also successfully made him wary. This little girl was quite bold. Last half an hour. Shi Shang sat back down. The Vice President was secretly embarrassed and hurried to report this matter. Shi Shang's request wasn't too much. If it was an ordinary family, the vice president would have agreed without the need to report it. But the other party was the Shi family. They had to consider it carefully. After 20 minutes of discussion, the higher-ups of RH agreed to Shi Shang's request. However, they only provided information and authentication. The rest was up to her. This was what Shi Shang wanted. He gave the thing to them without hesitation. Perhaps because Shi Shang was straightforward enough, the other party's attitude became better after returning the thing. Miss Shi, if you need anything, you can contact this person. He will arrange it for you. As long as it is within a certain range, he can provide you with help. The vice president gave a contact to Shi Shang. Also, forgive me for asking, but where did you get the thing? Shi Shang saved the contact and walked into the elevator. After pressing the button for the floor, he looked up at the vice president with a cold smile. It's hard to predict a person's heart. It's hard to guard against a mole. The vice president's expression changed slightly. When the thing was lost, they suspected that there was a mole. But at that time, they checked everyone and found that there was a perfect alibi. No one matched the time of the crime. The investigation didn't yield any results. Gradually, the investigation of the mole was put on hold. But now, they still had to investigate. Chapter 1952. It was early spring when Shi Shang returned to the capital star. The city was built with steel, and it was hard to see any fresh flowers or greenery. The city gave off a depressing feeling. Shi Shang walked down a road casually, and a man followed behind her. The man was holding something and looking for something. Miss Shi here. The man suddenly called out to Shi Shang. Shi Shang turned around and looked at the building the man was pointing at. The building was so tall that it reached the clouds. The entire exterior was holographic, and the latest advertisement was playing. Shi Shang looked up at the building. Miss Shi, there are many people in these buildings. You. So what? Shi Shang glanced at the man. You're just cooperating with me. You don't have to ask me anything. The man choked and took a step back. He was only sent by RH Company to help her. He really didn't have the right to ask for anything from her. That night, Shi Shang stood on the tallest building in the capital star, looking at the twinkling stars in the distance. The night wind blew her shoulder-length hair, and her back looked lonely. The man stood behind Shi Shang, wanting to say something, but he stopped himself. He stood there for the entire night. When the sun was about to rise, Shi Shang stroked her hair and tucked it behind her ear, revealing her small earlobe. Let's begin. Her voice was blown into the man's ears by the morning wind. The man looked down, hesitated for a moment, and tapped on his personal terminal to give the order. Boom! Bang! The tall building in the middle of the city exploded with a bang, and a mushroom cloud soared into the sky, covering the sky and the sun, blocking the rising sun. On different planets, several buildings were blown up one after another. Strangely, there were no casualties. All the explosions were carried out when there was no one around, and the ones that were blown up the most were the artificial intelligence robots. When the man received the report, he looked at Shi Shang again. He took a few steps forward. I'm sorry, Miss Shi. I misunderstood you. He thought that she wanted to blow up the buildings when there were many people around. Shi Shang didn't care. Her eyes were filled with the billowing smoke in the distance. She raised her hand to block the smoke and said softly, "This is just the beginning." Shi Xian, are you ready? The man knew how much preparation Shi Shang had made with the RH Company. She would never allow anything to disrupt her plans. He watched as she slowly built up a large net that enveloped the Shi family bit by bit. RH Corporation had put in a lot of effort into this. He didn't know if she would have been able to build such a big net without RH Corporation. However, he knew that this girl was definitely not an ordinary person. She had already begun to soar. The Shi family would be her starting point. Many of the Shi family's properties had been attacked in such a high-profile and arrogant manner. Shi Xian was furious, and the main residence was shrouded in a haze all day. What made Shi Xian's stomach hurt even more was that someone actually dared to make a move on the Shi family at this time. The first to betray him were the properties that he had taken back from Shi Mu. He had to thank Shi Mu for bringing Shi Shang to the company often. After Shi Mu's company was taken back by Shi Xian, some people didn't leave. Shi Shang secretly contacted them. Some of them just wanted to make a living, but there were also teammates in the Shi Mu army who agreed to her request without hesitation. Xia Chu was now firmly in the position of the heir. She didn't need to ask about the Shi family's movements to know that she was back. She didn't even need Shi Shang to say anything. Xia Chu would secretly help her. Compared to Shi Shang's meticulous plan to encroach on the Shi family's properties, Shi Xian, the head of the family, was a little flustered. He still didn't know who was dealing with the Shi family. The other families were just asking, but they didn't actually do anything. They didn't make a move or help. If the Shi family was completely defeated in the end, it was hard to say if they would make a move. Master, have you found out? Shi Xian grabbed the person who came in with a ferocious expression. Who is it? The person who was grabbed by Shi Xian shook his head nervously. No. Trash, a bunch of trash. Shi Xian pushed the person away fiercely. It had been so long, but they didn't even know who did it. It was impossible to say that Shi Xian hadn't offended anyone all these years with his personality and conduct. However, Shi Xian went through all the people in his mind, but none of them matched. Just as Shi Xian was throwing a tantrum, he suddenly received news that Shi Shang was back. Shi Shang. This name made Shi Xian's eyes light up, but it only lasted for an instant. This wretched girl actually dared to come back and pick a time like this to laugh at him? Shi Xian asked someone to bring Shi Shang in. Shi Shang came alone and hadn't stepped into the main house for many years. The surrounding scenery was both familiar and unfamiliar, and he didn't recognize many of the people here. Shi Shang followed the guide into the main hall. Shi Xian was sitting on the main seat, and his entire body was surrounded by a gloomy aura. Perhaps because he hadn't had a good rest recently, his eyes were slightly sunken. As Shi Shang came in, his gaze became more and more gloomy. They hadn't seen each other for a few years. The little girl who hadn't even grown out had now grown into this. Shi Shang stood in the middle of the main hall. Master Shi, long time no see. You still dare to come back, humph? My surname is Shi. Why wouldn't I dare to come back? Shi Shang's tone was slightly mocking. Are you satisfied with the greeting gift I gave you? Greeting gift? Since when did she give him a greeting gift? Shi Xian took a few seconds to react. The recent events flashed through his mind. He stood up quickly and stared at Shi Shang in disbelief. It's you. The girl opposite him looked calm and composed, making it difficult for him to guess what she was thinking. Shi Xian would be lying if he said that he wasn't shocked. The person who was guided by the time flower was indeed extraordinary. Men. Shi Xian shouted. Footsteps sounded from outside. They came in from outside and surrounded Shi Shang. Capture her. Shi Xian pointed at Shi Shang. Shi Shang, don't forget that this is the Shi family. You're too arrogant to come in alone. Shi Shang didn't care about these people. Instead, he approached Shi Xian. Don't you want to open that door? Shi Xian reached out his hand to stop the people approaching Shi Shang. He took 2 steps forward. What do you mean? I can open that door. When he heard that Shi Shang could open that door, Shi Xian couldn't help but be ecstatic. But thinking about everything that the Shi family had been through, would she be so kind as to open that door for him? It was impossible. And what she said might not be true. Capture her. Regardless of whether what she said was true or not, as long as she was in his hands, he would definitely open that door. The Shi family wouldn't be ruined in his hands. He would lead the Shi family to an even more glorious peak. ## today's big onion flavored ticket # search for Transmigration System, Villain Boss Attack. You can see the new book. Don't vote for this book. Please vote for the new book instead, because it's not on the shelves yet, you can't vote for it. So, you can still vote for this book. Sob sob sob. Love you guys, vote for the new book. Vote for the new book. I'll vote for Shi Shang. Chapter 1953. The hall was eerily silent. The girl stood in the middle of the wailing crowd on the ground. Blood dripped from her fingertips. Every drop seemed to have a sound, dripping into Shi Xian's heart. He couldn't help but take a few steps back. She had grown into such a monster in just a few years. Yes, a monster. There were so many people, but none of them could beat her. If she wasn't a monster, what was she? Shi Xian retreated to a chair, but there was nowhere to go. A chill ran down his spine, calming him down. Why was he afraid of her? He hadn't lived so many years in vain. Shi Xian calmed himself down and took off his jacket. I shouldn't have believed you. Shi Shang wiped the blood off her fingers. She threw the blood-stained handkerchief to the ground and stepped on it. You were too conceited. She was so weak at that time that he could kill her with a finger. Shi Xian was conceited enough to think that she would remain weak. Cut the crap. Shi Xian was hit where it hurt, and his expression was extremely ugly as he snorted coldly. Shi Shang rushed toward Shi Xian. Shi Xian's pupils contracted, but he didn't panic because of his years of experience and strength. The two of them exchanged blows in the hall. Shi Xian had just watched Shi Shang take down the others. She didn't seem to use much skill or strength, but when he faced her himself, he realized that Shi Shang's attack speed and angle were extremely tricky. Most importantly, he couldn't figure out the pattern. Even someone like him who had been on the battlefield for a long time was a little overwhelmed. Bang! The centuries-old sandalwood table in the hall shattered. Wood chips flew in all directions as a fist came toward him. Shi Xian clenched his fist and twisted it to the side. But at that moment, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Shi Xian sucked in a breath and looked down at his abdomen. Blood soaked his clothes and spread out. You! Shi Xian clutched his abdomen and took a step back. He gritted his teeth and said, You cheated. Shi Shang suddenly held a knife in her hand. This was the knife that Shi Mu had given her. She had been carrying it with her all this time. The rules didn't forbid the use of weapons in the beginning. Besides, I'm here for revenge, not to compete with you. Therefore, there was no such thing as a fair duel. Shi Shang stepped forward again and grabbed Shi Xian's arm. Shi Xian wanted to resist, but he had no strength and could only let Shi Shang drag him along. I forgot to tell you, I applied some medicine on the knife. Shi Xian's eyes burned with rage. He suddenly sneered savagely. Do you think I don't have any life-saving methods? He quickly pressed a button on his personal terminal, and Shi Shang's body suddenly lost its balance and fell downwards. Darkness invaded him, and Shi Xian took the opportunity to break free from Shi Shang. Shi Shang heard the sound of something heavy falling to the ground, but by the time she touched the ground to check, Shi Xian had already disappeared. Shi Shang looked up. The place where she had fallen had closed. She didn't know how high it was, but judging from the speed of her fall, it was very high. She shouldn't be able to climb up. Since Shi Xian dared to follow her down, it proved that there was an exit below. Shi Shang found that the tunnels below were connected in all directions, and each path led to a different place. At first, she was just walking casually, but later on, a voice in her heart kept guiding her in a certain direction. Shi Shang thought of the door. After losing Shi Lu, she was pulled into the space with the silver path again. This time, she saw something else. She knew how to open the door that Shi Xian had mentioned. Now, was it going to guide her to that door? Shi Shang took a deep breath and decided to follow the guidance of her heart. She calculated the time. After walking through the twisting tunnels for more than an hour, the tunnel in front of her began to widen, and there was light in front of her. Shi Shang took a deep breath and stepped into the light. The light was very dazzling, but it didn't mean that she would be in another place after stepping into it. The light was like a tunnel, and there was still a long way to go. Shi Shang couldn't open her eyes because of the blinding light, so she could only grope her way forward. After walking for about 5 minutes, the light gradually weakened. She got used to the light and gradually saw the front. There was a white jade door in front of her. There were no decorations on the door, and it looked like a whole piece of white jade had been cut open from the middle and stood there. Shi Shang stepped out of the white light completely. The white light behind her suddenly shrank back and disappeared in front of her at the speed of light. Her surroundings fell into darkness, and only the white jade door in front of her emitted a soft light. It dispelled the darkness around her and gently wrapped her up. Shi Shang walked slowly to the white jade door, reached out to touch it, and closed her eyes slightly. In the name of Shi, I offer my soul, give up my greed, and voluntarily enter into a contract with the door of time and space. My name is Shi Shang. The white light on the white jade door converged into small tentacles. They carefully touched Shi Shang's hand that was placed on the white jade door. After repeating this several times, the small tentacles wrapped around Shi Shang's wrist and quickly wrapped her up. Shi Shang was pulled into the silver path again, but this time there were not only one silver path, but many, and they meandered into the darkness. The white jade door stood behind her. On the white jade door, there were carved paths and flowers on both sides of the paths. A low voice gathered from all directions. Welcome to the door of time and space. Please confirm if you want to enter into an eternal contract with the door of time and space. You cannot tell any living thing about the door of time and space, and you cannot use the door of time and space to satisfy your own desires. This contract cannot be broken unless you die. If you violate the rules of the door of time and space, you will be punished by the destruction of your soul. Confirm. You will swear on your soul that you will protect the door of time and space for the rest of your life. You will not use the door of time and space to satisfy your own desires. I swear on my soul that I will protect the door of time and space for the rest of my life. You will not use the door of time and space to satisfy your own desires. Welcome, new master of the door of time and space. The white light on the white jade door flashed, and her name gradually appeared on the white jade door. The white jade door stood quietly in front of her. The voice did not sound again, as if it had never appeared. Shi Shang reached out to touch the white jade door. Just as her fingers touched the door, the white jade door turned into a white light and entered her body. This door was called the door of time and space, and it had always been guarded by the Shi family. Through this door, one could go to any time and space, and even reverse time to go back to the past or the future. If this door was leaked to the outside world, it would cause a bloodbath. Therefore, the Shi family had secretly guarded the door of time and space for generations. The door of time and space was not something that anyone could guard. It had to be a person without greed and a person with a strong heart. It did not require you to be kind, but you had to be without greed. The end of the era had arrived, and the next guardian of the Shi family had not been found yet. The situation was chaotic, and in order not to let others know, the Shi family's ancestors told the younger generation that there was wealth and life behind the door of time and space, and asked them to guard it well. The door of time and space would find its own guardian. After so many years, Shi Shang did not know if the Shi family had formed a contract with the door of time and space, but if there was, it proved that no one had violated the contract with the door of time and space. Chapter 1954. When Shi Shang returned to the surface, she was immediately surrounded by a large group of people. Shi Xian had used the underground passage to shake off Shi Shang and return to the main house. He had quickly called for reinforcements. Perhaps it was because of the contract, but Shi Shang's vicious aura was suppressed. If she didn't do it on purpose, no one would think that she was a dangerous person. Shi Shang, surrender. The master said that as long as you don't resist, we will spare your life. If you dare to resist, don't blame them for being blind. Cold weapons were pointed at Shi Shang. Shi Shang took a few steps forward. Those people looked at her cautiously, their weapons ready to fire. Ah! Screams filled the main house. That day, they saw a woman like the god of death, surrounded by countless people, approaching Shi Xian's position. Shi Xian's people stayed with Shi Xian. Listening to the constant noise outside, they were all scared witless. They couldn't understand how a young girl who was not even 20 years old could be so powerful. Even when Shi Shang came in, they still couldn't figure it out. The door was blasted open, but no one came in. The outside suddenly returned to silence. Everyone looked at each other. What was going on? Shi Xian was supported by someone. His face was pale. He didn't know what Shi Shang had smeared on the knife. The healing pod only healed his wounds, but his body was still weak. Master. Everyone looked at Shi Xian. What should they do now? Why aren't the Zhanlong guards here yet? Shi Xian shouted angrily. The Zhanlong guards who were usually in the main house were nowhere to be seen today. He didn't give any orders to the Zhanlong guards. Where did they go? If the Zhanlong guards were here, she wouldn't be so arrogant. Master, we can't contact them. The person beside him whispered. Trash. Shi Xian kicked the person's calf, but because he was weak, he fell down. The person behind him quickly caught him to prevent him from falling to the ground. It was quiet outside. Everyone waited for a while, but there was no movement. They looked at each other for a while. You go out and take a look. Shi Xian casually pointed at someone. That person's face immediately fell. He probably didn't want to go out, but under Shi Xian's glare, he could only shrink his neck and carefully move towards the door, praying that nothing happened outside. However, his prayers were in vain. Before he could reach the door, a few strange things were thrown in from outside. The items fell to the ground and rolled. One of them happened to roll to his feet. His pupils shrank and his expression changed. He quickly turned around and shouted at the people behind him, "Run!" Boom! Shi Shang stood outside and looked at the building that had disappeared into the dust with a cold expression. She opened her personal terminal and dialed a number. Thank you for your hard work. You can let those people leave now. Miss Shi, are you sure? When they go back, they will definitely. The Zhanlong guards of the Shi family were very powerful. He did not know what method the Shi Shang used to lure all these people out, but it was definitely not right to let them go now. What's done is done. Even if they kill me, it won't change anything. I know what I'm doing. Let him go. All right then. Shi Shang hung up the phone. The people around him had already rushed over. They all stood not far away from Shi Shang and did not dare to get too close. Shi Shang turned around and swept his gaze across those people. Finally, his gaze landed on the elders who had arrived late. From today onwards, the head of the Shi family will no longer be Shi Xian. I will take over. Does anyone have any objections? You. One of the elders spoke. His wrinkled face was filled with anger. How can you be the head of the family if you offend your superiors? When Shi Xian forced my parents to their deaths and put me under house arrest, why didn't you stand up and criticize him? Shi Shang sneered. This is different. The elder scolded. How is it different? A layer of ice formed in Shi Shang's eyes as they emitted a cold aura. Just because he's the clan head? The head of the family is the direct line of descent. How can you, a branch family member, be the head of the family? Direct line of descent. If you really want to trace back, it's already hard to say who is the direct line of descent. These words are only used to fool those ignorant people. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? The direct line of descent was just a title. Whoever took over would be the direct line of descent. That elder wanted to say something, but he was stopped by a slightly older elder beside him. He bowed first. Greetings, head of the family. Great elder. Why did you admit it just like that? Look at what she has done. Is this something that can be forgiven? Great elder glanced at the person beside him. After a moment, he lowered his eyes. I didn't agree with the previous head of the family's way of doing things. He was the one who insisted on doing things his own way. Now, this is karma. But this has nothing to do with her. Great elder waved his hand, stopping these people from continuing to speak. He looked at Shi Shang with a complicated gaze and made the final decision. She is qualified to be the head of the family. Since Great Elder had already said so, even if the others had any objections, they could only hold it in. Greetings, head of the family. Greetings, head of the family. Shi Shang snorted. You're smart. Great Elder nodded slightly. You flatter me, head of the family. Shi Shang put the things in his hands back into his pocket. If these people had dared to do anything just now, he would have blown them up as well. The main building of the Shi family's main residence was almost razed to the ground. None of Shi Xian and his men came out. They disappeared in the explosion. This explosion was shocking, but it also made people admire the courage of the perpetrator. It was said that when the army went, the perpetrator was very arrogant and said that there was nothing wrong with blowing up her own house. The Shi family kept quiet about this, and no one complained. The army could only ask about the incident briefly and then withdraw. With the help of RH Company, Shi Shang used forceful means to suppress the Shi family. Originally, most of the Shi family's businesses were in Shi Xian's hands. Shi Shang relied on RH Company to make these businesses either collapse or have already changed owners. What else could the Shi family say at this time? In this era, strength was important, but so was wealth. RH Company also did not expect that Shi Shang would really be able to take over the Shi family. This was probably their biggest investment, but in the end, they made a profit. Shi Shang fulfilled his promise and gave 1/3 of the Shi family's businesses to RH Company. The Shi family was already in chaos because of the sudden change of ownership, and now that their financial resources were reduced, the Shi family's strength was greatly reduced. The few elders of the Shi family were so worried that their hair turned white. They had already strangely acknowledged a new head of the family, and now it was like this. Could the Shi family still be good? However, Shi Shang, the newly appointed head of the family, did not say anything about this matter. He spent all day with the Zhanlong guards, and no one knew what he was doing. #today's Barracuda flavored votes #monthly votes. It's the end of the month, and the monthly votes are all for this book. It can't give birth to babies. Moi. There's no need to vote for the recommendation votes, vote for the new book instead. Chapter 1955. Shi Shang spent a lot of time to recruit the Zhanlong guards for his own use. It must have been a difficult process. The Zhanlong guards were loyal to the Shi family. They didn't care who the head of the household was. As long as it wasn't something that was detrimental to the Shi family, they wouldn't interfere. Therefore, the Zhanlong guards were an independent existence in the Shi family. No head of the household could make the Zhanlong guards listen to him. But Shi Shang did it. After recruiting the Zhanlong guards, the people in the Shi family who were still trying to cause trouble quietened down. Head of the household, do you want to invite? Before Great Elder could finish his sentence, Shi Shang waved his hand and interrupted him. No need. This. Great Elder was surprised. He thought that Shi Shang didn't know the rules and explained, the ceremony is a big event in our family. Inviting others is also a way to recognize them. Isn't it a little inappropriate to not invite them? We will know them when the time comes. She was still young. She didn't want to be a live target. Besides, how could the people outside not know her? Head of the household, this is not appropriate. Shi Shang looked at Great Elder. Great Elder choked. This little girl seemed to be even more terrifying than before. He had seen all kinds of people in his life, but when he met her gaze, he still felt a little cold. Shi Shang said calmly, I have the final say in the Shi family now. Great Elder, he sighed in his heart. We don't have to invite outsiders, but we have to call back the people in the family to attend the ceremony. Shi Shang didn't refute this point. Great Elder continued, about Shi Hao's family, have you thought about what to do with them? Shi Shang tilted his head. Who? Great Elder's mouth twitched. The eldest son of the previous head of the household. What happened before? His family isn't here. Shi Yu. Great Elder nodded. That's them. Shi Yu was a rare genius in the family. Unfortunately, if this person was in charge, as Shi Xian's granddaughter, even if nothing happened to Shi Yu, she wouldn't be put in an important position. Do what you did before. What's there to settle? The great elder suspected that he was hearing things. This was Shi Xian's son. You just got rid of Shi Xian, so shouldn't you eliminate the source of trouble? The great elder had already mentally prepared himself. The replacement of the family head had always been accompanied by bloodshed. But now, she actually said that she should do what she should do? Was this sarcasm or the truth? The first elder couldn't figure out what Shi Shang was thinking. He tried to sound him out, but Shi Shang's answers were flawless. No one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. In the end, the great elder could only arrange things according to the standard of not punishing. Since he wasn't going to be punished, Shi Yu's family naturally had to attend the enthronement ceremony. On the day of the coronation ceremony, only Shi Yu came. Her parents did not show up. Shi Shang, who was wearing the traditional attire for the coronation ceremony, took the gift from Shi Yu and said, "Thank you." Shi Yu laughed bitterly. Who would have thought that the little girl from back then would become the head of this family after so many years? Although it was her grandfather who had gone overboard first, Shi Yu was still her grandfather's granddaughter. Shi Yu found it hard to accept the death of a relative. She didn't know how to face the person in front of her. So, she turned around and left after handing him the gift. She didn't even attend the coronation ceremony. After Shi Shang succeeded to the throne, she began to slowly deal with the mess she had made of the Shi family. She had seen a lot of economic matters from Shi Mu when she was young, so she had learned quite a bit about it. But since she hadn't learned it systematically, it took her some time to deal with it. However, her tepid attitude made the people below think that she had a card up her sleeve and didn't care at all. Shi Shang said that it was really just a misunderstanding. She really didn't know how to deal with it, so she took her time. From this, it could be seen how fast Shi Shang learned things. It only took her a month to understand everything in the business world. If someone wanted to take advantage of the Shi family's time to stir up trouble, she couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense and directly sent the Zhanlong guards to deal with them. Anyway, she would beat them until they didn't dare to have any ideas. Only then did the Shi family feel that their new head's style of dealing with things might be different from the previous head. However, more people were worried that if this continued, the Shi family would offend many people. For this reason, the culprit was not worried at all. Whoever dared to cause trouble would be beaten up until their parents couldn't recognize them. 3 months later, the family would hold a mecha competition. The winner would get the opportunity to test drive the super mecha, Red Blade. If they could get the approval of Red Blade, they would become the new owner of Red Blade. The previous owner of Red Blade had been dead for several years, but Red Blade hadn't recognized a new owner. The younger generation in the family was eager to give it a try. If they could get Red Blade, their status in the Shi family would take a qualitative leap. Do you think the head of the family will participate? What's the point of worrying about this? Even if the head of the family wants to participate, Red Blade needs to approve. Haven't you heard? The head of the family has also been guided by the Time Flower. Her talent is on par with Miss Shi Yu. If she participates, our chances will be much smaller. This news was released by the Great Elder. It was probably to suppress the younger generation of the Shi family who didn't know their place. Having been guided by the Time Flower, this condition was enough for Shi Shang to gain a foothold in time. Who did you hear this from? The person next to him was surprised. Why haven't we heard of it? The Great Elder sent the news, the person replied. Since the head of the family can, it's obvious that he's not an ordinary person. Having been guided by the Time Flower, I'm not surprised. Even if the head of the family doesn't participate, with Miss Shi Yu around, we won't have a chance. Is Miss Shi Yu here? I didn't see her. She should be here. This opportunity is hard to come by. Although the Super Mecha belonged to the family, to be recognized by the Super Mecha meant that one had a status in the 6 major galaxies. They didn't believe that Shi Yu would give up this opportunity. Shi Yu originally wanted to give up. No matter what grudges Shi Shang had with her family, she didn't have many grudges with her. As the saying went, the grudges of the previous generation should not affect the next generation. If revenge breeds revenge, when will it end? If Shi Xian was like this, if they continued, when would it end? Sometimes, her father was right. Her grandfather had only himself to blame for what had happened to him. So, Shi Yu still came. The Mecha Grand Tournament was divided into 3 rounds. Shi Yu easily advanced to the last round. Shi Sheng didn't participate. He didn't even come to watch the competition. According to the manager, he went out with the Zhanlong guards. As for where they went, no one knew. In the end, Shi Yu won the Mecha Grand Tournament. According to the rules, after Shi Yu won, the head of the family, Shi Shang, had to open the place where the red blade was placed. However, Shi Shang wasn't in the family now. Everyone thought that this matter would be delayed. Who knew that the great elder would directly transport the red blade here? The head of the family said that Miss Shi Yu would definitely win. I didn't expect him to be right. The great elder handed the red blade to Shi Yu. Great elder, I haven't passed the red blade yet. Shi Yu looked at the mecha in front of her. Her heart was filled with respect and awe. The great elder smiled. The head of the family said that the red blade will be handed to Miss Shi Yu until you can control it. Chapter 1956. At the Shi family's examination grounds. Shi Shang led the Zhanlong guards down. After 6 years, this place was completely different from before. It was a completely unfamiliar scene. Master, this year's examination is still in progress. Are we breaking the rules by coming in like this? The person in charge of the examination followed behind Shi Shang worriedly. Shi Shang walked forward with his hands behind his back. He didn't even listen to the person in charge. Do you still have the images of the examination grounds from before? The person in charge wiped his cold sweat. Yes. Let me see. This? Shi Shang turned around and looked at him calmly. The person in charge immediately opened the images from that year on his gadget. The Zhanlong guards brought up the images from this year for comparison. Shi Shang pointed at a spot. Go here. Master, that place is the most dangerous place this year. The person in charge was going crazy. Wasn't it the Grand Mecha Tournament? How did the master have the time to come to the examination grounds? Not only did he come, he even had to come down. Not only did he have to come down, he even had to go to the most dangerous place this year. But he had no choice. Who asked him to be the master? Of course, he could only forgive her. Under the person in charge's lead, Shi Shang didn't spend much effort to reach the place she pointed at. This place was completely different from before. The ground was covered with vines as thick as an arm. Clean it up. Yes. The person in charge saw the Zhanlong guards cleaning the vines and felt terrible. Master, you can't do this. What about this year's examination? The Zhanlong guards and Shi Shang ignored him. The person in charge cried for a long time in despair. Did the master suffer here in the past? Was that why he came to take revenge? Those who came for the examination were between 12 and 16 years old. This place might be dangerous for them, but it was a piece of cake for the Zhanlong guards. The area was quickly cleaned up. Shi Shang looked at the ground and said in a deep voice, "Dig." She only remembered that she had buried someone here. But she couldn't tell the exact location. She could only let the people dig. Master. The Zhanlong guards waved at Shi Shang. Shi Shang looked over and stood there for 3 seconds before walking over. In the big hole dug by the Zhanlong guards, white bones could be vaguely seen. Master. The Zhanlong guards stopped Shi Shang. All of you, step back. The Zhanlong guards looked at each other and retreated to the side. Shi Shang ignored the soil and squatted down to brush the soil away with his own hands. Under the soil, a small white skeleton was gradually revealed. Shi Shang was very serious when she was doing this. She carefully brushed away the soil and took out the bones as if they were precious treasures. The Zhanlong guards had never seen Shi Shang like this. Their impression of their family head could only be described with one word: fierce. Before the Zhanlong guards came, they had already prepared an exquisite crystal coffin. These crystal coffins were commonly used in the galaxy and could ensure that the corpse would not rot for hundreds of years. However, there was only a skeleton left in Shi Shang's hand. Judging from the skeleton's appearance, the skeleton was no more than 11 or 12 years old. They heard that the patriarch used to have a younger sister, but they didn't know how she disappeared. "I promised you that I would come and take you home." Shi Shang held the crystal coffin and looked at the white bones in the ice coffin. He could still see the scene of Shi calling him sister. About 3 minutes later, Shi Shang closed the crystal coffin. "Let's go." The person in charge looked at the mess on the ground and felt frustrated. What was going on? "Catch him. Don't let him escape." Shi Shang paused and looked at the few children running towards them. They were chasing after a person. The person being chased was in a sorry state. His clothes were stained with blood and the smell of blood could be smelled from afar. The children behind him were still attacking him. "Hurry up. If he escapes, I'll make sure you suffer." The children behind were still shouting. The child in front was caught and pressed to the ground. Someone grabbed his head and slammed it against the ground. His ferocious face was like that of a demon. Shi Shang looked at the person in charge. The person in charge was speechless. He wanted to stop them, but the Zhanlong guards acted first. They went forward and chased the children away. "So this is your so-called test?" Shi Shang sneered as she left these words behind before walking towards the children. The child who was shouting the loudest was from the main family. He had seen Shi Shang before. When he saw her, his face turned pale. Master. From today onwards, the test is abandoned." Shi Shang looked down at the children. His words were for the person in charge. "If anyone has any objections, tell him to come and find me." This test was not to train their abilities. It was to let them come here to settle their personal grudges. There was no point in such a test. Perhaps the ancestors had set up this test for the development of the tribe. But in the end, it had completely changed. It had become a hunt. So now, she was going to abandon it. Since she was the head of the family, she had to change anything that displeased her. In the quiet cabin, the little boy was casually placed on the bed. He was still wearing his bloodied clothes. His fingers moved, followed by his eyelashes. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the metal lamp above his head. What was this place? Had they found a new way to torture him? The little boy realized that his hands and feet were not tied. This was different from the treatment he had received before. Or was she finally dead this time? He raised his hand and touched his chest. His heart was thumping. He was not dead. But where was he? The little boy got off the bed. His body was weak. It took him a few minutes to walk to the door. When he opened the door, he saw a young girl walking over from the other end of the corridor. It was her. He had seen her in a daze before. But he could not remember what she had said after that. The young girl seemed to have seen him. She paused in front of him and turned around. "What is your wish?" The little boy did not expect her to stop and talk to him. He was a little confused. The young girl waited for a while. She seemed a little impatient and walked away. The little boy immediately chased after her. "My wish is to live." The young girl turned around. "What is your name?" The little boy was confused again. But with the experience just now, he quickly reacted. "I don't have a name. They all call me a fool." The young girl focused. She supported her chin with one hand and said after a while, "You will be called Shi Fong from now on." Shi Fong? The little boy watched the young girl leave with her people. When he got his own personal terminal, he realized that his name was not Shi Fong. It was Shi Fong. At that time, he did not know what this name meant. That year, Shi Shang was 18, and Shi Fong was 16. Asterisk vote at the end of the month, little cuties. Keep the monthly votes for those who can't have children. As usual, vote for the new book La 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 La. Chapter 1957. Shi Feng walked along the dark corridor. He was a little cautious. Occasionally, when someone passed by, he would be scared to the side, but those people did not care about him and walked straight past. He walked and stopped. He did not remember how long he had walked before he saw a door and a girl. She leaned against the door and looked at the universe outside. She seemed to be admiring the scenery outside, but she also seemed to be looking at nothing and was just daydreaming. Shi Feng stood behind and looked at her for a long time. He heard that this person was the new family head. With his status, he was not qualified to meet the family head, so he did not know her. Shi Shang turned around and did not seem surprised that he was standing there. She just asked calmly, "Why are you standing here?" "Thank you, family head." Shi Feng bowed 90 degrees. "I will repay you." "Repay?" Shi Shang sneered. "How will you repay me?" Shi Feng bit his lip. He did not have anything to give her, but he still had his life. If it were not for her, he would have lost his life long ago. Even his name was given by her. "I will always be loyal to you, family head." Shi Shang pursed her lips and walked past him. It was not until she opened the door that Shi Feng heard her voice. "You can't even protect yourself. How can you be loyal to me?" Shi Feng seemed to see a crystal coffin in the room, but before he could see it clearly, the door closed. Shi Feng clenched his fists. He would definitely become very powerful. Shi Shang closed the door and walked to the crystal coffin. She reached out and touched the coffin lid. "I think you don't want to go back. I'll take you to a place where no one will disturb you." Shi Shang leaned against the crystal coffin and sat down. "But we have to pick up Dad and Mom first." It had been 6 years. It was finally over. Revenge had supported her to live until now, but what should she do now? Shi Shang rubbed her fingers on the crystal coffin. "Sister, what should I do now? Should I go and find you too?" Shi Shang did not remember when she fell asleep. She dreamed of that dark space again. Shi Lu was lying in her arms and slowly stopped breathing. She had not dreamed of this scene for many years. She wanted to forget the past, but she could not. Whenever she relaxed a little, those memories would rush out and occupy her mind, even her soul. She also wanted to be free. "Sister, you have to live. Don't die." "I don't want you to die." Shi Li's soft voice rang in her head. Shi Shang suddenly opened her eyes and turned to look at the crystal coffin. "I won't die." Shi Shang sighed. "But it's painful to live." After a while, she smiled and whispered, "But since this is your last wish, I will definitely live on." Shi Shang found the planet, which had become a desolate planet. It took her a month to find a few skeletons at the place where the planet had collapsed. Fortunately, their clothes were well preserved, and she could easily recognize Shi Mu. Shi Shang ordered his men to take Shi Mu's body away. The one next to him should be Brother Hong. Shi Shang thought for a moment and took Brother Hong's body away as well. But she didn't expect that because of Brother Hong, new problems would arise. Not long after her spaceship left the desolate planet, it was intercepted. At this time, the Shi family was not the same as the one in the future that would make people tremble in fear just by looking at their logo. It was a group of mercenaries who stopped them. These people were looking for Brother Hong. There was a transmitter on Brother Hong's body. When Shi Shang moved Brother Hong's body, she might have turned on the transmitter. Hence, the mercenaries who had been looking for Brother Hong were attracted. "Master, they want us to hand over the body," the Zhanlong guard reported to Shi Shang. "If we don't hand it over, they will attack." "They don't dare." Shi Shang looked at the scene outside and smiled coldly. "If they wanted to attack us, they would have opened fire long ago. They wouldn't have dilly-dallied for so long." "Master, we can't go on like this. Why don't we give the body to them?" The Zhanlong guard did not dare to say this. He only knew that Master came here to look for her father, Shi Mu. Shi Mu had already been placed in the same room as Master's sister. The remaining body was an adult male. It was definitely not Master's mother. Before Shi Shang could make a decision, the mercenaries asked for a face-to-face meeting. The Zhanlong guard did not agree. The background of the people opposite them was unknown. They did not bring many people with them. What if something happened? Shi Sheng did not mind. However, the location of the meeting had to be on her side. The people opposite her hesitated for a long time but finally agreed. Not only did the mercenaries come, but there was also an old man. The old man did not look good, but his pride could not be ignored. "Are you in charge?" The old man looked at Shi Sheng, who was standing in front of him. "Sit." Shi Sheng replied to the old man with an attitude. He took control of the situation in his hands. The old man looked at Shi Sheng silently. The young lady in front of him looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. At this age, she was still a child in the galaxy. However, age could be deceiving sometimes. Hence, the old man did not dare to underestimate her. He sat opposite Shi Sheng. He organized his words slightly. "May I know your name?" "Shi Sheng." The old man was slightly surprised. The recent uproar was related to this name. However, at this time, the Shi family had just calmed down. Why was she not in the Shi family? Why was she here? Furthermore, heroes come from the young. The old man suppressed his doubts. "My surname is Ji. If you don't mind, you can call me Old Master Ji." Shi Sheng nodded but did not comment. Old Master Ji was even more surprised. The person opposite him was not an old monster who looked young. It was her who was so young. With such a temperament at such a young age, it was no wonder that the Shi family fell into her hands. "We have no ill intentions. We just want the Shi family to return Hong Er's body to me." Old Master Ji continued. Ji Hong's original name was Ji Hong. He was the youngest son of this old man. However, this son was disobedient since he was young. Later on, he left home alone. The Ji family had been looking for him for many years. If Shi Sheng hadn't accidentally turned on the transmitter, they probably wouldn't have known where Ji Hong was for the rest of their lives. "Someone from your family?" Shi Sheng finally spoke. "How can you prove it?" "Although Hong Er is, genes will not change. We will know with a check." "You know that's not what I mean." Shi Sheng supported his chin. "How can you prove that you don't have other motives? After all, you came here to ask for his body. How can you be so sure that he is dead?" Old Master Ji was calm. The sadness on his face was real. He sighed. A few years ago, someone sent back a message saying that Hong Er was gone. They even brought back a message from Hong Er. That you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.